tutorial we are going to talk about the if statement in Python. And the if statement allows us to evaluate expressions or conditions and do stuff on the basis of whether the condition is true or false. So what I'm going to do is create a very simple script and illustrate the if statement to you through that script, right? So I have my Python IDLE here, and what I'll do is I'll press Ctrl N, and you can alternatively also go to File and then select New File, and when I do that, this window opens up, so I can type in some code for a script and then save it and then execute it in the Python environment, right? So in the script, what we're going to do is I'll create a variable and I'll give it the value 50. I'll call it myvar and I'll give it the value 50, and then I'll use the if statement to check whether the variable's value is less than 100 or not, and if it is 100, then I'll display a message using the print statement. If it's not 100, we're not going to do anything, right? So we're just going to see the if statement, and this is the simplest example I could come up with. So I'll type in if and then the name of my variable, which is myvar. I'll use the less than operator here, and then I'll type in the number 100 because we want to check whether the value is less than 100 or not, and then I'll put in the colon, and when I press the enter key, I see that the cursor blinks on a new line, but it blinks a few character spaces ahead, right? So in Python, this is how you enter a block of code. All statements that are at the same level of indentation happen to be in the same block of code. So whereas in the main program everything works without any space, whereas if you get inside a block of code, then you have to indent your code by a given number of space characters. So if you're working with a text editor, not the Python IDLE, and if your text editor does not support Python programming, if you're using something like Notepad, for instance, even if you pre-save your file with the py extension, it's not going to detect whether you're typing Python code or PHP code or code from some other language, and it's not going to have this indentation ready for you. You'd have to manually get in a few space characters, and convention is that you have 5 characters of space, right? 1 tab or 5 characters of space, and that's how the beginning or end of code is marked in Python. And this can be a little tricky for people to get used to, particularly guys who programmed in other languages like C++ or Java, in which you use the curly braces to mark the beginning or end of your code. In Python you don't have curly braces, and this is just how the developers wanted to make the language. They didn't like curly braces, so they just thought that, okay, we're going to use space characters instead of using curly braces. So this is how it is. And the only problem with this is that if you have like one block of code, and in that you have another statement, and you get into another block of code, and then you get another block of code, then your code keeps shifting towards the right. And that can be a little tricky because I have worked on websites earlier in which the code was so much towards the right that I had to use a scroll bar to actually go towards the right and see the code. But then intelligent programmers, they get over that too. They logically organize their programs in such a way that they don't have to shift too much towards the right. So anyway, let's get back to the program, and as I said, we're going to display a message if the expression value is true. So I'll use a print statement, the print function, and wait a second, I have to get rid of this extra p, and then in double quotes I'll just display something like you are short of being 100%, right? And when I press the enter key here, I see that the cursor blinks just below the alphabet P of the print function here. So Python is ready for me to type another statement within the block of if. But if I want to exit the block of if and get back in the block of main, I simply have to press the backspace key on my keyboard, and I'm back at the level of if. So now I'm outside the block of if, and we'll see that when we execute the program. And I'll just have another print function here, just display something like goodbye. I'll save the program as I'll save it on my desktop. I'll give it the name if, and I go to run and click on run module. I see that I see both the sentences in the output window. So I see you are short of being 100%, and I also see goodbye. And that's not because they both happen to be within the block of if. First the variable was created, it was initialized with 50, then the comparison was made, and since this expression value is true, this print statement was executed, and then the control was returned to the main program and then this print function was executed. But if I change the value of my var to 150 instead of 50, save the file and run the program, then obviously this sentence is not going to appear in the output. So I'll execute it, and there you go, I just see the message goodbye. So that's it about the if statement. In the next tutorial we're going to talk about the if else statement, and I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 14th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the if else statement. And the if else statement is different from the if statement in the sense that it gets you an else block in your code which executes when the condition evaluated by if is false. So in the last tutorial we made a script and we had an if block in it, and that block got executed only when the condition that was evaluated by if was true, right? And if that condition evaluated to false, then the program didn't do anything with the if block. Instead, another statement was executed which was outside the if block. But the else statement helps you get over that by letting you have an else block which works when the if statement runs into a false evaluation, right? So I'll press Control N, make another script, and again we're going to do pretty much the same thing. I'll have a variable and I'll call it myvar. I'll give the value 50 initially, and then we're going to have the if statement check whether the variable value is less than 100, and I'll put in a colon, get inside the if block, type in the print function and display a message using it. So you are short of, I could have actually used the script file that I made in the last tutorial, but then it's okay. You're short of being 100%, right? And when I press the enter key, I still stay in the if block. To exit it, I'll have to press the backspace key, and now I'll type in the else keyword, right, and put in a colon and get inside the else block now. So I can have a print function here too, and this function will execute if this condition evaluates to false, right? So the value of myvar is greater than 100, then this statement won't be executed, whereas the print function within the else block will be executed, right? And I can display a message here, something like you are at your best. So if you're not short of being 100%, then it means that you are at your best. And then when I press the enter key, I still remain in the else block. If I want to exit the else block, I'll have to press the backspace key again, and now I'm outside the else block, and again I'll just get in a print function here to display a closing message, like goodbye, right? I'll save the file as I'll save it on my desktop. I'll give it the name else, and I'll press F5 to run the program, and there you go. I see the message you are short of being 100%, and then I see the message goodbye. So whereas in the last tutorial, when we changed the value of our variable to 150, we saw that the statement inside the if block, the print function, was not executed, and we just got the message goodbye. Here, if you would change the value of the variable to 150, save the file and rerun the program, we'll see the else block working, and then of course we'll see the message goodbye, right? So we see the the print function that was there in the else block, it displays us the message you are at your best, and then we see the final message goodbye. So this is how the if else statement is different from the if statement. It gives you a little more flexibility. And in the next tutorial we are going to check out the elif statement in Python, and I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. You may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 15th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the elif statement in Python. And the elif statement allows us to check multiple conditions instead of just one in the case of if statement, right? And again, we're going to make a very simple program, and we're going to see the elif statement in action in that program, and that's how we're going to understand it. So I have my Python IDLE here. I'll press Control N, have a script window, and I'm going to make a very simple program, as I said, and this is going to be a long program maybe, but then it's going to be simple, trust me. So I'll have a couple of variables in my program. The first one I'm going to call SP, which is a short form for selling price. I'll give it the value 1500. The next line I'll create another variable, and I'll call this one CP. I'll give it the value 1200, and this is CP is the short form for cost price, right? And then I'm going to use the if statement to check whether the selling price is greater than the cost price or not. And if that is the case, then we're going to do some stuff, right? So what happens when the selling price is greater than the cost price is that you make some money, right? So you make profit, and we'll use a print function to display the profit value, and also a couple of messages. So the first thing that we're going to display is congratulations, and then on the next line I'll get another print function, and through this I'll display the profit value. So you've made a profit of, and then I want to display the profit value. So for that I'll have to get outside the second double quotation mark, because if I don't do that, then the arithmetic operation that I need to perform won't be performed. Instead, the text would be displayed as is, right? So I'll get outside the second double quotation mark, and I'll put in a comma symbol here, and then type in SP minus CP, right? So this is going to obtain the profit value, and then I'll put another comma symbol, and then within double quotes I'll just type in bucks, and that's because I want to display the word bucks after displaying the profit value, right? And on the next line I'm going to get outside the block of if, and we're going to type in the elif keyword here and get inside the elif statement. But then there are three scenarios that you can have in this program. The first one we've already covered, and that is the case when the selling price is greater than the cost price. The second scenario can be a case in which you make a loss, right? So in that case the selling price will be less than the cost price, or the cost price will be greater than the selling price. And the third scenario will be when the value of the selling price is the same as the value of the cost price. So in that case you neither lose money nor do you make money. So instead of having three if statements to make the three checks, we're going to use if only once, and then we're going to have the second check made by the elif statement, and the third check covered by the else statement, right? So I'm going to type in elif here, right? That's ELIF, and then within parentheses I'll make the second check, and that is whether the cost price is greater than selling price or not. And of course we're going to get to this check. The elif statement is going to execute only if the if statement fails. So in this case we won't have to unnecessarily execute the if statement checks, because if one if block will execute, then the rest of the program will just skip, right? So I'll get in a print function here, and I'll display the message oops, and that's because it's a bad thing, we've lost some money. And then I'll type in print function again and display the value of the loss made here. And to do that I'll type in you've made a loss of, and then again outside the second double quotation mark I'll type in CP minus SP this time, and then I'll type in bucks, right? And I'll get outside the elif block on the next line I'll type in else to cover the third case. And I don't have to specify any condition here. Obviously we'll get inside the else block only if these two conditions will evaluate to false. So the selling price is not greater than the cost price, and the cost price is not greater than the selling price. So that leaves only one possible condition for the else block, and that is the values are the same, right? And I'll type in print here, and we'll display a simple message, something like you didn't make or lose money, right? Simple enough. I'll put in a full stop here, and I'll save the file. I'll save it on my desktop. I'll give it the name elif, and when I press F5 to execute the program, I see the message congratulations, and then I see you made a profit of 300 bucks, right? So the calculation was made and the profit amount was displayed to us, right? And if I change the values of the two variables, so let's say if I make selling price 1200 and if I make the cost price 1500, save the file and rerun the program, and this time I see the message oops, you made a loss of 300 bucks, right? And that's because the cost price is greater than selling price, and the elif block worked and the if block didn't work, right? And if I make the values the same, then in that case the if block won't execute, the elif block also won't execute. Instead only the else block will execute, and that just has one statement. So I'll save the file, rerun the program, and this time I see the message you didn't make or lose money. So that's it for now. In the next tutorial we are going to check out the nested if-else statement in Python, and I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 16th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the nested if-else construct in Python, and we're going to make a simple program in which we'll ask the user first to enter a character, and then we're going to check whether the entered character is an uppercase alphabet or a lowercase alphabet or something else, and if at all it is an alphabet, then we're going to check whether the alphabet is a vowel or a consonant. Right? So the first thing that I have to do is I'll have to use the input function to grab the user input and store it in a variable. So I'm going to store it in a variable called char or char, and I'll use the input function with empty parentheses, and this is going to ask the user to, the cursor is going to blink, ask the user to enter a character, and that character will be stored in this variable, right? That's what the input function does. And then I use the if statement and the ORD function to check whether the character's ASCII value lies in the range 65 to 90 or not. And the reason why I'm going to check between 65 to 90 is that the ASCII value, I'll use the ORD function in the shell to check the ASCII value of the alphabet capital A. So I know that that's 65, and that of capital Z is 90, and that of alphabet small a is 97, and that of alphabet small z is 122, right? So my range to check whether the character is an uppercase alphabet or not is going to be 65 to 90, and to check whether the character is a lowercase alphabet or not is going to be 97 to 122, right? So I have my work cut out here. I'll just have to, put these conditions in if statements and make the checks. So ORD CHAR is greater than equal to 65, and ORD CHAR is less than or equal to 90, right? So I'm using the logical AND operator here to join these two conditions, the first condition and the second condition, right? And I'll put a colon here, and I'll use the print function to display a message, like you entered an uppercase alphabet, right? And we are also going to check here whether the alphabet entered is a vowel or not. So I'll use another if statement, and this one I'll type in the variable name char, then the in operator, and in a list I'm going to have all my uppercase vowels. So A, and then capital E, and then capital I. Let me get rid of this white space because I don't want my code to shift too much towards the, and then I'll have a comma here, and capital O, and then capital U. I have a habit of typing a space every time I hit a comma, and if this is the case, then we are going to use another print statement, and using this one we're going to display the message you entered a vowel. And if that's not the case, then we'll have an else statement using which we are going to have a print function that displays the message you entered a consonant, right? Cool enough. And if the ASCII value of the character entered is not in this range, then we'll have to use the elif statement to have the comparison for the other range, which was 97 to 122. So if ORD CHAR is greater than equal to 97 and ORD CHAR is less than equal to 122, then I'll just copy this entire block and I'll paste it in the elif block, and then I'm going to make the required modifications to it, right? So I'll copy and paste it here, and the first change that I'll have to make is change this to lowercase alphabet, and then I'll have to change all these vowels to lowercase vowels, right? So A, and then small e, and small I, and small o, and small u. You entered a vowel, else you entered a consonant. That doesn't require any change. And it could also be that the user enters a digit or a special case character, right? So to cover all those cases, we're going to have an else block, right? And this one corresponds to the if statement, the first if statement that we wrote in the program. And in the else block, I'll again have a print function, and this one will simply display the message you did not enter an alphabet. So before running the program, let me just walk you guys through the script once. So first we have used the input function to take the user's input, and we've stored it in the variable char, and then we've used the if statement to check whether the ASCII value of the character entered is greater than equal to 65 and less than equal to 90, right? So if that is the case, then it obviously is an uppercase alphabet. So we've used a print function to display this message, and then we've also checked whether the character lies in this list or not. And the reason I have all the uppercase vowels here and not the lowercase vowels is because we'll get to this if statement only if the character is an uppercase alphabet, right? So that's why we made comparisons only with uppercase vowels. And if it lies in this list, then we've used a print function to display the message that the character is a vowel, and there's an else block which has a print statement to display the message you entered a consonant. And then we made the other checks using the elif statement and the else statement here. So the elif block checks whether the character entered has an ASCII value greater than equal to 97, which is small a, and less than equal to 122, which is small z. And if that's the case, then it makes comparisons with the lowercase vowels, and if it is a vowel, then it will display that it is a vowel. If it is a consonant, then it will display it is a consonant. And then there is also an else block that captures all other cases. So let me just save the program and execute it. So when I type in a digit, right, so if I type in 5 and press the enter key, I see the message you did not enter an alphabet. So I'll go to the program and I'll read on it, and this time I'll type in the percentage symbol, right, and again I see the message that you did not enter an alphabet. I'll go to the program once more, read on it, and let me type in capital T now. So when I type in that, I see that I get messages you entered an uppercase alphabet and you entered a consonant, right? I'll go to the program and I'll execute it, and let me enter an uppercase vowel like capital O. So this time I see the message you entered an uppercase alphabet and you also entered a vowel. And if I read on the program and type in a small case vowel like U and press the enter key, I see that you entered a lowercase alphabet and you entered a vowel, right? So there is a typing error here. It should be A instead of and, but then that's okay. So I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial, and you guys have understood the nested if-else construct now, which wraps up our discussion on decision constructs in Python. In the next tutorial, we're going to talk about the while loop, and it's going to be an interesting tutorial. I'm looking forward to it, and thank you so much for watching this. And you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 17th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial, we are going to talk about the while loop in Python. So the while loop is used to execute a statement or a bunch of statements one or more times on the basis of a condition, right? So what we're going to do in this tutorial is check out very simple application of the while loop. So we're going to display numbers from 1 to 10 on screen, and we're going to display a message along with the number on 10 different lines, right? So let's just see how we're going to do that. So the first thing that you need to do if you're interested in using the while loop is you need to have a control variable. So I'm going to have a variable in my program that I'm going to call var or var, and I'll give it the value 1, right, because we want to start printing numbers 1 onwards. On the next line, I'll type in the keyword while, that's WHILE, and within parentheses I'll have a condition for my loop. So I want this loop to execute till the variable var reaches the value 10, right? So I'll have my condition as var less than equal to 10, and then after the closing parentheses I'll type in a colon, and on the next line I'll have a print statement that first displays the message hi, I am, and then after the second double quotation mark I'll have a comma, and then I'll type in var, right? So with the value of var as 1, we are going to see the message hi, I am 1, and then if the value of var changes to 2, if it's going to change because we're going to update it inside the body of while, then we'll see the message hi, I am 2, so on and so forth till 10, right? So on the next line, as I said, we have to update the value of var, and we're going to do this using var equals var plus 1, right? So we want the value to be incremented by 1 in each iteration of the loop, right? Those of you who have programming experience in some other language, for you guys this must be kid stuff, and those of you who are checking the while loop for the first time, this is really simple. It's just that these two statements are going to get executed over and over again till the time this condition evaluates to true, right? So it's as long as this condition evaluates to true, these statements are going to get executed, right? And then we are going to get outside the while block, and we're going to simply do that using the backspace key and getting on the same level as while. I'm going to have a print function here, and I'm not going to display anything using it. I'll just have an empty print function because I want a new line on my output screen, and then I'll have another print function to display the message goodbye, just to show you guys that we are outside the body of while, and this statement, or even this print function, is not going to execute 10 times, it's just going to execute once, right? So I'll save the file, and when I run the program, I see this output: hi, I am 1, hi, I am 2, I'm 3, I'm 4, up till I am 10, and then I see a new line and then the message goodbye, right? So this is so cool, because a lot of times it happens that we have to do something over and over again in a program, and the while loop is a fantastic loop. It's not my favorite loop in Python, but in other languages I use while more than any other loop, right? So another thing that we're going to check out is what happens if you exclude the statement that updates your control variable in a while loops, right? So in that case, we run into an infinite loop, and let me just remove the statement, save the file, and execute the program and show you guys what an infinite loop is. So when I run it, I see the message I am 1, and I see it over and over again, and the program is just executing, like it's not stopping, and that is because the value of the control variable is not getting updated. So we're never going to get outside the body of while. And if you want to stop such a program, then you have to press Control and C, and it happens, it's very normal. A lot of times it happens that programmers just forget to update the control variable. It can happen if you're in a hurry or something. So the infinite loop is also useful. There will be situations wherein you want the while statement to keep on running as long as the user doesn't do something, right? So in those events, for instance, if you're doing servlet programming or something, those are higher order concepts, so I'm not going to discuss servlet programming now, but if you have such a thing, or if you want to display the menu again and again, and on the basis of the actions of the user, you want to branch control to other parts of your program, even in those cases, you have the while statement, and that doesn't have the control variable being updated. So that's it for now. In the next tutorial, we are going to check out something interesting again, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 18th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the for loop in Python. And the for loop in Python is used mostly to iterate over elements in a set or a sequence, right? So in this tutorial we are going to check out the for loop through a programming example, and what we're going to do is we're going to ask the user of the script to enter his or her name, and then we're going to use the for loop to count the number of vowels in the name entered, and then we're going to display the result on the output screen, right? So the first thing that I'll have to do is initialize a variable count to 0, right? And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to update this variable every time the for loop encounters a vowel in the string entered, right? So initially I want this to have the value 0, because if I don't initialize it with the value 0, then it'll have some garbage value, and I don't want that, right? And on the next line, I'm going to display a message using the print statement, and this is to instruct the user that he or she is supposed to enter his or her name. So enter your name, I'll put in a colon at the end, and then I'll use the input function to get the user's input, and I'll store the string entered in the variable name, right? On the next line, I'm going to type in the keyword for, right? So we are starting the for statement now, and then I'll use a variable for the loop, and I'm going to call this letter, right? You can call it anything you want to, and the life of this variable is only while the for loop is active. Once you get outside the body of the for loop, and the flow of the program moves outside for, this variable cannot be used, right? So I'm going to have the for loop, and then after typing in the name of my dummy variable, I'll type in the keyword in, and then I'll type in name, which is the name of the variable in which I've stored the string, right? I'll put in a colon, and then inside the for loop I'm going to have an if statement that's going to check whether the dummy variable's value lies in a list of vowels or not. And the way the for loop works is this variable letter is going to iterate over the different characters in the string entered. So if suppose you enter a string like Roger Federer, then this variable letter is going to iterate over the alphabets in Roger Federer. So in the first iteration is going to have the value capital R. In the next iteration it will have the value O. In the next iteration it will have the value G. So one by one it's going to go over all the alphabets in the string entered. So this is the beauty of the for loop. We can iterate over a list or any sequence. It can be a string or a tuple or a dictionary, right? So we can do all these things using the for loop. And in this tutorial I'm going to check whether the value of letter is in a list of vowels, and I'm going to have uppercase as well as lowercase vowels. So I'll first check against uppercase vowels, A, E, and then I, and then capital O, and then capital U, and also for small case, small a, small e, small I, small o, and finally small u. So after doing this, on the next line I'll obviously have to get a colon to get inside the if block. So we'll get in the if block only if the letter lies in this list, and if it does, then we're going to update the count variable to count plus 1. So you must remember here that the count variable here is not the control variable for the for loop, right? It's just a variable that is going to keep a count of the number of vowels encountered in the string, right? And the if statement's job is to just check whether the value that's held in the variable letter while it is iterating over the string that's stored in the variable name, if that value is in this list, if it can be found in this list. If that is the case, then it's going to update the value of the count variable. If that's not the case, then it's not going to do anything, right? And then after we've done this, I'll move outside the for loop, use the print function to display the message, you have count and then vowels in your name, right? So this is good enough. I'll save the file and I'll run it, and I see the message, enter your name, and I'm just going to type in my name, that's Madhur. When I press the enter key, I see that I have two vowels in my name, and I have A and small u, and I'll run the program again with a different input, and this time I'll type in Tom Cruise. When I press the enter key, I see that there are four vowels in the name of Tom Cruise. So we have O, then U, I, and E, right? So that's it about the for loop. I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll discuss something interesting again, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 19th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the break statement in Python. The break statement in Python is used for the same purpose as it is used in other programming languages, and that is to prematurely terminate the execution of a loop, right? So in this tutorial we're going to make a very simple program, and in the program we are going to display numbers from 1 to 15 on the output screen using a while loop, and then we're going to see how we can terminate the iterations of the loop midway, or let's say when the value of the control variable reaches 10 using the break statement, right? So it's going to be very simple. So first of all, since I'm going to use the while loop, I'll need a control variable, and I'm going to call mine var or var, and I'll give it an initial value of 1 because that is going to be the starting point for the while loop, right? So this is where from we're going to start displaying values. On the next line, I'll type in the keyword while, and within parentheses, I'll type in the condition for the while loop, which is that the variable value should be less than or equal to 15, right? So this loop is going to start from 1 and it's going to loop till 15, and I'll have to put a colon here to get inside the body of the while loop. And since I want to display the value of the variable on screen, I'll use a print statement. Within parentheses, I'll simply pass the name of the variable, which is var, and on the next line, I'll update the control variable to the statement var equals var plus 1, right? And then I'll get outside the body of while and simply use a print statement to display a message like goodbye, right? Just to know that we are outside the body of the while loop. I have saved this file already and I've given it the name break.py. I'll just run it and show you guys the output. So there you go. On the output screen, we see that we get the numbers 1 to 15 and then we see the message goodbye. Now let's say you do not want to change the condition of the while loop. That is, you do not want to change the condition to, VAR less than equal to 10, and you still, just somehow want to get outside the while loop as soon as the value of the control variable reaches 10, right? So, I mean, you can try to relate it to some real life example in which you want to do something and only up till a certain condition is satisfied, but then you don't want to do it if that condition is not satisfied, right? So I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. And you just want to terminate the execution of the while loop. That is, you do not want all the iterations of the while loop to complete. You want to terminate it midway or at some value using some kind of statement. So we're going to use the break statement for this purpose. And what I'll have to do is before the print statement in the body of the while loop, I'll have an if statement that will check if the value of the variable or the control variable is equal to 10, and if that is the case, then we're just going to break, right? So the way you have the break statement in your loop is by simply typing the keyword break, and I'll save the file, and when I execute it now, I see that I only get numbers from 1 to 9, and then I see the message goodbye. So the break statement takes the control outside the while loop. It just gives the control back to the main program, and in the main program we just have one print statement after the while loop, and that gets executed, right? So that's it for now. In the next tutorial we're going to check out something interesting again, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 20th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we're going to check out an application of the break statement. And in the last tutorial we discussed the break statement, but I just thought that we need to make more sense out of it, so that's why we're going to check out another programming example of it. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is have a while loop that doesn't have a condition but just a true expression, right? So what happens in such a case is that the while loop keeps on iterating over the statements that it has in its body, and only if you have an if statement in the while loop with a break statement in the body of if that can somehow terminate the execution of the loop, then you can get outside the while loop. Otherwise you just stay in it, right? So this is useful in situations wherein you just want to force the execution of certain statements, and you want the user to do something in order to proceed with the program. So let me just make the program for you. So as I said, we're not going to have a control variable for the while loop, so I'm just going to type in while, and then I'll type in true, right? And I'll put in a colon, and on the next line I'll use a print function to display a message to the user on screen, and the message is going to be enter a digit, right? And then on the next line I'm going to use the input function to store the input that the user provides in a variable called num, and I do that by typing in num and then the assignment operator, the input function with a set of empty parentheses. And then on the next line I'm going to use the str function to convert the value that's stored in the variable num, which is most likely going to be a single character and hopefully a digit, to its equivalent character form. So I'm going to store that value in a variable called var, and as I said, I'll use a string function to do that. So I'll type in str, and then within parentheses I'll type in the name of the variable that has my user input, which is num, right? On the next line I'm going to check whether the value, the ASCII value of the character that's currently stored in the variable var, if that value is for a digit or not. And I can use the ORD function in the Python shell to check the ASCII value of the digit 0, and that is 48, and the ASCII value of the digit 9, and that is 57, right? So I have my range now. So I'm going to use the range function here, and I don't think we've used the range function in this course thus far, and
the range function simply, gets you a list from a starting number to an ending number, or a starting value to an ending value, right? So I'll type in ORD, and then the variable name, which is var, and then the in operator, and then the range function, and then the lower limit for my range is going to be 48, and the upper limit for my range, its value is going to be one more than the upper limit for the digit 9, which is 57, right? So I'm going to type in 58 here. Wait a second, let me get back to my program. Yeah, so I'm going to type in 58 here, and this is because when you use the range function, then you get all the values from the lower limit till the upper limit, right? So the upper limit is not included in the range set, right? And then I'll type in a colon here, and I'll get my break statement, and then I'll get outside the body of while, have a print statement just to know that I'm outside the body of while, and I'll display a message: you are very obedient, right? So the user is going to see this message only if it provides a digit input. If it provides a number, then it's going to see this message. If it provides any other characters, whether a lowercase alphabet, an uppercase alphabet, or a special character like the dollar symbol or the pound symbol or the ampersand symbol, anything on the keyboard apart from a number will not lead to the display of this message. And the loop will keep iterating, and the loop will keep asking the user to type in a digit till it gets it, right? So I'll save this program and I'll run it, and in the shell I see the message enter a digit. So let me first play with the program a bit. So when I provide a character input, like when I type in L and press the enter key, I see the message enter digit again, right? So I hope now the while true is making some sense, because we are iterating over and over and over. So I'll type in another alphabet, capital R, again I see the message enter digit. I'll type in the pound symbol, enter digit, percentage symbol, enter digit. I can keep on doing like this. When I press a digit like 8 and press the enter key, I see the message you are very obedient, right? So this is because we provided a digit as the input. The number 8 got stored in the variable num. It was converted to the character 8 using the str function. That result was stored in the var variable, and then the ASCII value of the number 8 was checked if it was in the range 48 to 58, and that it was. So we broke outside the while loop, we broke out of it, and then we executed this print statement: you're very obedient, right? So I hope now all these things make sense. The while true construct, and then the range function, as well as the break. I hope that you guys are more clear with the application of the statement. So thank you so much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next tutorial, in which we'll discuss something interesting for sure. You may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. See you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 21st tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about nested loops in Python. And nested loops are loops within loops. So we checked out the nested if-else construct earlier in the course, and nested if-else statements are if-else statements within if-else statements, and similarly nested loops are loops within loops. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to use for loops, and we're going to use the range function, the break statement, and a few more things to find out prime numbers between 2 and 100, and also numbers that are not prime between 2 and 100. We're going to display all of them on screen, right? So it's going to be a slightly tricky program to understand, judging by the fact that in the course thus far we've had like really simple programs, and we haven't been programming. We've just been playing with the Python programming language, and we've been checking out its features. So this is going to be like first real programming example in this course, and I'm excited about this tutorial. So the first thing that I'm going to do is type in the keyword for, and then a variable for my for loop, and I'm going to call it var1, and then the keyword in, and then I'm going to get the range function to make the loop loop from 2 to 101. And the reason why I'm going to loop till 101 is because when you use the range function, the upper limit is not included in the range set. So since we want to find out prime numbers between 2 and 100, we have to loop, we have to keep the upper limit for the range function as 101 and not 100. right? So if you want to find out prime numbers between 2 and let's say 998, then you have to put 999 as your upper limit in the range function, right? I'll put in a colon here and get inside the body of my for loop, and I'm going to use a variable called flag, and I'll set it to true, right? And this is not going to make sense right now, but just imagine flag to be some kind of a variable that you use to check where you are in your program and what is happening, right? And it's going to make sense in a couple of minutes, but for the time being, just know that it's a variable that you need to have in this program, right? And what to do is type in for again. So this is another for loop within the outer for loop, right? So that's why this is an example of the nested loop construct in Python, and the variable for this for loop is going to be var2, and again I'll type in the in keyword and then the range function, and this time the lower limit for range is going to be 2, but the upper limit for range is going to be var minus 1, right? var1 minus 1, sorry, I apologize. So what we're going to do is, let's say we want to find out whether 13 is a prime number or not. So we're going to divide 13 by 2, and then 13 by 3, 13 by 4, and we're going to keep on dividing 13 by numbers till we divide 13 by 12, right? So that's what we're going to do, and if the remainder obtained in any of those division operations is 0, then it means that 13 is divisible by one number between 2 and itself, and that means that it is not a prime number. So then we're going to break out of the inner for loop and we will display a message, right? So I hope now things are making some kind of sense. So I'm going to put in a colon and get inside the body of this for loop, and as I said, we're going to check whether the remainder obtained when you divide the outer variable with the inner variable, that is var1, and I'm going to use the modulus division operator, which is the percentage symbol, var2 equals 0. And if this is the case, then as I said, we're going to first print using the print statement that the variable var1 is not a prime number, right? And the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to set the flag to false, and then we are going to break, right? And outside the inner for loop, at the level of the inner for loop, that is, we are going to have an if statement that is going to check the value of flag. So if the flag variable is true, in only that case we are going to have a print statement that is going to execute, and that is going to display the message. Okay, wait a second, this has to be outside the double quote. So var1, then I'll put in a comma here, and inside the double quotes I'll type in is a prime number, right? So the role of the flag variable, as you guys have probably figured out by now, is that if the number that the outer for loop is going to pass into the inner for loop, if that number is not a prime number, then flag will be set to false. And the if statement here is using the flag variable to check whether the number is a prime number or not, right? So if it is a prime number, in that case, this if statement is never going to evaluate to true, and the value of flag that will be passed to this if statement is going to be true because we initially set it to true. Whereas if this if block executes and if the condition evaluates to true, then the if block is going to set the value of the variable flag to false, and in that case this if statement will fail, and we'll go back to the outer for loop with a new value for var1, and then we're going to repeat the same procedure again, right? So let me save this program and execute it, and there you go. We see that when I run the program, I get this really awesome pretty list with all numbers between 2 and 100. So I see that 2 is a prime number, 3 is a prime number, 5 is a prime number, 7 is a prime number, so on and so forth. I see all prime numbers, and I also see the numbers that are not prime. So 4 is not a prime number, 6 is not a prime number, and 8 is not a prime number, so on and so forth. And I get my list up to 100. Right? So this is really cool, and I agree that there are better ways of doing this program, but then I thought that this is the most easy way to understand, so that's why I picked this up. And I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one, in which we discuss something interesting for sure, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 22nd tutorial in this course. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about the continue statement in Python. And the continue statement lets us pass a block of code or skip an iteration of a loop, right? So unlike the break statement, in which when the break statement is executed, you completely get out of the loop. What happens when you encounter a continue statement is you skip the rest of the code in that iteration, and then you get back to testing the condition for your loop, and you see if you want to proceed further with the iterations or not. So break completely gets you out of a loop, whereas continue lets you skip an iteration, right? So we're going to make a very simple program as we did in the case of break. We're going to make a similar program, in fact. So we're going to use a for loop here, and the variable for my for loop, I'm going to call it var, and I'll use the range function to make the variable loop from 1 to 15, right? So the upper limit is going to be 16, and I'll put in a colon, and if I do not use the continue statement, and if I simply use the print function to display the value of the variable, let me save the file, and when I run it, I see numbers from 1 to 15 on the screen. Now let's say I want to skip a few iterations. That is, I do not want to display numbers between 13 and let's say 13 and 9, right? So if I want to skip those iterations, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an if statement in my loop, and I'm going to check if var is in the range 9 to 14 is going to be the upper limit if I want to check whether the number is between 9 and 13, right? So if I want to skip iterations when the value of the variable is between 9 to 13, the upper limit for the range function is going to be 14, right? So if that is the case, then what we're going to do is we are going to type in the keyword continue here, right? And if that is not the case, then we are going to have an else block, and that is when we will display the value of the variable on screen. Right, so let me save this file, and when I run it now, I see that I get numbers from 1 to 8, and then numbers from 9 to 13 are skipped because of the continue statement, and then I see numbers 14 and 15. Right, so that's what the continue statement is used for in any programming language. In Python, this is a syntax. You don't have to put in a semicolon after the keyword. You don't have to do anything else. You just type in the keyword simply, just as we did with break. We're going to check out another example of the continue statement just to emphasize things properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the user to enter a string of text, and then we are going to remove all the space characters from that string, and we will display all the characters individually except the space characters, right? So obviously let's display a message using the print function to instruct the user what it is supposed to do. So I simply display enter a string. That's comprehensive enough. And then on the next line, I'll use the input function to get the user input, and I'll store it in the variable var. I'll use the for loop to iterate over the characters in the string. So I'm going to use letter as my dummy variable, the in operator, and then I'll simply type in a variable that holds the string, which in this case is var. I'll put in a colon to get inside the body of for, and then I'll use the if statement to check whether the character encountered and the character stored in the variable letter, if that is equal to a space, right? So between two single quotes, I have a space character, and if that is the case, then we want to continue. And if that's not the case, then we are going to use the else block to have a print statement to display the value that's there in the variable letter. So I'll save this file, and when I run the program, I see the message enter a string. So if I type in something like hello world, which has one space character, if I press the enter key, I see HELLO, and then I see world. So the space character between the O of hello and the W of world is missing. That's not displayed, right? So that character was present in the string, but since we've used a continue statement to not print that character, because the if block is going to execute, and this condition is going to value to true for the space character, and that's why we're going to continue. We're going to go to the next iteration with the value w for the variable letter, and we're going to proceed with the program. So I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one, in which we'll discuss something interesting again, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. See you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 23rd tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we're going to begin our discussion on numeric functions, and we're probably going to have at least a couple of tutorials on numeric functions because there are so many of them, and I'm not going to discuss all, but I'm going to discuss the functions that I use frequently and the ones that I consider important in the language. And of course, if you want to have a look at the entire list of numeric functions, and you can refer to the documentation that comes along with Python. But as I said, in this course we're going to have a look at a few, maybe 10 or 15 functions, the ones that are really important. So the first function that we're going to check out is the absolute function, and in Python we call it ABS, and the absolute function returns the distance of a number from 0, right? So if you want to find out the absolute value of 5, you type in ABS, and within parentheses you pass the number 5 as an argument. When I press the enter key, I see the answer as 5. When I use the absolute function to check out the absolute value of -5, I still see the result as 5, and that is because numbers 5 and -5 are at the same distance from the number 0, right? So whereas to get to the number 5 you have to travel in the right direction on the number line. To get to the number -5 you have to travel in the opposite direction, or the left direction on the number line, but in both cases you have to travel the same amount of distance, right? So they both are at the same distance from 0, and that is why the absolute value of both 5 and -5 is the same, and that's 5, right? The next function that we're going to check out is the ceil function, or the ceiling function, and to use this function you have to import the math module, and we haven't yet spoken about modules in this course, and I'm going to record a separate tutorial on modules in which we'll talk about modules in detail. But for the time being, just know that a module is something, it's like a library that you have to import to have access to the functions that are there in the module, right? So the way you import a module in Python is by using the import statement. So you type in import and follow that up with a space, and then the name of the module that you want to import. So in this case I want to import the math module, so I'll simply type in math, press the enter key, and now I can use all the functions in the math module, right? So we're going to check out the ceil function now, and to use it I'll type in the name of the module first, which is math, follow that up with a dot operator or the period, and then the name of the function, which is ceil, right? CEIL, that is. And the ceiling function basically returns the next higher integer. So if I pass in 35.74 as an argument to this function, then I'll get 36 as the answer, because the next higher integer to 35.74 is 36. And if you use the ceil function with let's say a negative number like -35.74, then you're not going to get -36, because that's not the next higher integer. The next higher integer for -35.74 is is -35, right? Because -35 is greater in value than -36. It's less negative and it's more positive, right? So I hope that makes sense. The next function that we're going to check out is the exp function, and the exp function returns the exponent of a number that's passed as an argument to it. And again, you have to use the math module for this, but since we imported it once in this shell session, we won't have to import the module again. But again, to use the function, we'll have to type in the name of the module first, which is math, then the dot operator, and if I simply check out the value of the exponent or the I don't know what it's really called. I guess people call it the exponent. If I check out the value of that, that's 2.7182, and this is a constant in Python, and you can check out its value just the way I typed. And if you want to calculate the power of this raised to something, then you can use the exp function. So if, let's say, I want to calculate the power of e raised to the power 7, then I'll type in math.exp, and then within parentheses I'll just pass in the number 7, as an argument. So the result is 1096.633, and I can confirm that by typing in mat.e and then the exponentiation operator, which is the double asterisk symbol, and if I pass in 7 as the power, I get the same thing, which is 1096.633158842 blah blah blah, right? So that's about the maths.exp method. The next function that we're going to check out is the floor method. And the floor method, unlike the ceiling method, it returns the largest integer that is not greater than the number passed as an argument, right? So it returns the next lower integer value, right? And again, you require the math module for it. So I'll type in math.floor, and within parentheses, I'll type in a number like 16.94. So what is going to be the value for this? It's going to be 16, right? And if you use the floor method with a negative number, let's say you use it with minus 16.94, you will get minus 17, because this is the next lower number from minus 16.94. It's more negative and less positive. The last method that we're going to check out in this tutorial is the sqrt, or the square root function in Python. And again, to use this function, you need to import the math module. So the function, as the name suggests, is used to calculate square roots of numbers. So if suppose you want to find out the square root of 25, you type in math.sqrt, and then within parentheses you type in number of which the square root of which you wish to find. If I want to find out the square root of 25, I'll pass in 25, and there you go, I see the result as 5.0. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial, in which we'll continue our discussion on numeric functions. We'll check out a few more, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 24th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we're going to continue our discussion on numeric functions and check out a few more. So the first function that we're going to have a look at is the log function, and it is used to compute the natural logarithm of numbers, right? And to use this function, you have to import the math module. So I'll do that by typing in import math, and now we can use all the functions in the math module. And as I said, the first one that we're going to check out is the log function. So you type in math.log, and let's say you want to find out the natural logarithm of the number 5. You simply pass 5 as an argument to the function. That is, you type in 5 between the parentheses, and you get the result as 1.60943. And we know that if we calculate the log of something to the base that same thing, then the result is 1. So if I check out the natural log of the constant e, then the answer to this should be 1, and it is 1 indeed, right? And this is to find the natural log of things. If you want to find out the log of things to the base 10 instead, then you use the log 10 method, right? But you still have to use the math module, because it's not, it doesn't exist independently, it exists in the math module. And you type in log 10, that's the name of the function, and within parentheses you pass in your argument. So let's say I want to calculate the natural log of, the log to the base 10 of 2. I know the value is 0.3010. When I press the enter key, I see the result as 0.30102999, and it follows. So if I calculate the log to the base 10 of 10, I know that the result to that should be 1, and it is 1 indeed. And the next function that we're going to check out is the max function, and it's really useful. And you don't have to use the math module for this function. You can use it with with a lot of things. And we're going to check out more applications of max function later on in the course, but for the time being, let's use it with numbers. So what the max function does is it takes in a list of arguments, not just one argument, but you can pass in as many numbers as you want. You just have to separate your numbers with the comma symbol, and it returns the maximum value of those numbers. So let me just type in some random numbers like 10 and 15 and 20 and maybe 45 and then negative 18, right? So when I press the enter key, I see that the maximum of this result of this set is 45, right? So out of these numbers, 45 is the largest number. And another function that is very useful is the min function. And obviously, if the max function returns the largest value, the min function will return the least value. So Let me type in some numbers as arguments to this function: 11 and 19 and let's say 17 and 6 and negative 213. Right, so the answer is negative 213 because it's the least value, right? And the last function that we're going to check out in this tutorial is the round function, and that is used to round off numbers, right? So if suppose you want to round off, and again, to use this function, you don't have to use the math module. It exists independently because it's one of the most frequently used functions. So that's why people thought that they should have it in standard library instead of keeping it just in the math module. So you type in round, and let's say you want to round off 17.457 to 2 decimal places. You type in the first number, put a comma, and then the number of decimal places that you want. When I do that, I see the number rounded off to 2 decimal places, and the result is 17.46. So that's it for now. In the next tutorial, we're gonna wrap up our discussion. We're gonna try to wrap up our discussion on numeric functions. And thank you so much for watching this video. You may subscribe to my channel in case you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care.
Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 25th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we're going to talk about few more numeric functions in Python. So the first method that we're going to look at is the mod f method, and what this function does is you pass to it a fractional number, and it returns a 2-item tuple, and it gives you the integer part of the number and the fractional part of the number as separate items, right? So for this function we have to import the math module, and that's what I'm going to do using the import statement. I have to type in import math, and then I can use the function by typing in math.modf, right? That's the name of the function. And as I said, it takes fractional arguments, so let me pass to it a number like 11.971. And when I do that, I see that as a result I get a tuple that has the fractional part of the number first, which is 0.971 with a bunch of zeros, and it also has the integer part, which is 11, but it returns the integer part as a fractional value, right? So you don't just see the number 11, you get 11.0. But still, it's a very useful function. I'm sure you guys will be able to build a lot of interesting programs around this function. And the next method that we're going to check out is the power method, and in Python it's called POW. And this method returns the power of a number raised to another, and it obviously takes two arguments. And this function also requires the math module. So to use it, I'll type in math.pow, and then within parentheses I'll type the number first. So let's say I want to raise 4 to the power 2, right? I want to calculate 4 square. So I'll type in 4 first, I'll put in a comma, and then I'll type in the power to which I want to raise 4. So if I want to find out 4 square, I'll type in 2 there. When I press the enter key, I see that the result of 4 square is 16. The next method that we're going to check out is the hypot method, and this method is used to compute the hypotenuse of a triangle when you know the base and the perpendicular. So I'm sure we all know the Pythagoras theorem, and the theorem states that the square of the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle is equal to the sum of squares of the base and the perpendicular. So it uses this theorem to find out the hypotenuse, provided you give it the values of the base and the perpendicular of the triangle. So again, you have to use the math module for this method. I'll type in math.hypot, and then within parentheses, let's say I want to find out the hypotenuse of a triangle that has 3 as the base and 4 as the perpendicular. So the value of the hypotenuse is 5. And if I want to find out the hypotenuse of a triangle that has 5 as the base and 12 as the perpendicular, the hypotenuse is 13. Right? That's cool enough. And the next method that we're going to check out is the degrees method. And the degrees method is it actually returns the angle value in degrees for an angle passed in radians. Right? So we know the mathematical constant pi, right? Its value is 3.14, and in Python it's actually a known constant. You can check out its value by typing in math.pi, and there you go, the value is 3.141592, and a few more digits after that. So if suppose I want to calculate the equivalent degrees value of pi radians, then I have to use the degrees method. As I said, I'll type in math.degrees, and then within parentheses I'll simply type in math.pi. Right, there you go. We know that pi is equivalent to 180 degrees, and that's what I get. And if suppose I want to find out the degrees equivalent of minus 4 radians, then I can type in minus 4 within parentheses, and I get minus 229.183 degrees. Right, and the counterpart of the degrees method is the radians method, which converts an angle value from degree to radians. Right, so to use this method, I'll type in math.radians, and within parentheses I'll pass in degrees value. So let me just copy this result and paste it within the parentheses here, and when I press the enter key, I see minus 4. Right, so this is what the value that we supplied for the degrees method was, and so this way we've checked that both functions work properly. So that's it for now. In the next tutorial, we are going to begin our discussion on string functions, and I hope you guys are having fun in this course, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 26th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to begin our discussion on string functions, and we're going to check out 5 really cool and important string functions. So the first one that we're going to have a look at is the capitalized string function, and this function returns a string with the first letter capitalized if not already. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string object first, and I'll call it str1, and I'll give it the value hey what's up. Right, so this is simple enough, and you must have noticed that the first alphabet of the string is H, and it's a small case alphabet, it's not an uppercase alphabet. Right, so if I want to change the case of the alphabet H to uppercase, then I'll use the capitalize function this way. I'll first type in my string object, which is str1. I'll follow that up with a dot, and then I'll type in the name of the method, which is capitalize. Follow that up with a pair of empty parentheses and just press the enter key, and there you go. I see that in the result I get a string in which the first alphabet H is a capital alphabet. Right, it's an uppercase alphabet. And the next method that we're going to check out is the count method, and this method is used to calculate the number of times a string exists in another string. Right, so I'm going to change the value of the string object str1, and I'm actually going to write a few lines in it. So that's why I'm going to type in triple quotes, 3 double quotes, that's what I meant. So this way I'll be able to go to different lines and type in sentences. So the first sentence that I'm going to type is Tom is a good guy, right? And let me just type in a few more sentences about Tom. So Tom is also hardworking, and you know, what else? Tom is honest, and tell me a few more good qualities about Tom. Tom is a team player, and Tom is actually a party pooper, which is not a good thing, but still you can have a couple of bad characteristics if you're so good at so many other things. So Tom is a party pooper. And next, Tom sleeps early. And next I can type in something like Tom works out, right? So that's enough. I don't want to write anything more about Tom, otherwise people would start thinking that I'm in love with this guy. I don't even know who he is. So there you go. When I press the enter key, my string is created, and I can simply type in str1 to look at the content of the object, and there you go. These are all the sentences I have, and I see all these slash and escape sequences in between. The sequences tell me where I have the new line characters in the string, right? So let's say I want to count the number of times I have the word Tom in my string. So I'll type in str1, and just as we did with the previous method, capitalized, I'll type in the name of the string object first, str1, and then I'll type in count, right? And within parentheses, I'll type in the string that I wish to, the string that I want to find in my string object, and also the count of which I wish to know. So I want to know the count of Tom, so I'll type in Tom. When I press the enter key, I see that the word Tom exists 7 times in the string str1, right? So it's a very cool method. And the next method that we're going to check out is the ends with method, and this method checks if the string that's passed as an argument to the function is actually the last part of the calling object string or not. So let me demonstrate this with an example. So I'm going to change the value of the str1 string object that I have, and I'm going to change it to I love tennis.com. And I don't know if there is a website with this URL, but let's just assume that there is one, right? So I'll create my string object by pressing the enter key, and now let's say I want to check out whether the last part of this this string is .org or not, right? Let's say I don't know what is the domain of this website, right? So to check, I'll type in str1 dot ends with, and then within parentheses and single quotes, I'll type in .org, right? When I press the enter key, I see false as the result, and that's because the last part of the string is .com and not .org, right? And if I check it with .com, let's see what I get. I get true, right? So that's why it's called the ends with method. It checks the ending part of the string, whether that is same as the argument that you pass to the function or not. If it is same, then it results into true. If it's false, then it returns false, right? So the next method that we're going to check out is the find method, and this method checks if the string that's passed as an argument to the function exists in the calling string or not, and if it exists, then it returns the index position of the first character of the argument that you've passed, and if it doesn't exist, then it simply returns -1, right? So again, I'll demonstrate it, and it will be easier for us to understand. So I'm going to change the value of the str1 string object again, and I'm going to change it to catch me if you can, right? And then I'm going to use the find method this way. I'll type in str1.find, and then within parentheses and single quotes, I'll type in you. So let's say I want to find out whether the word you exists in this string or not. When I press the enter key, I get 12 as the result, and that's because the index of the word you, that is the alphabet Y in the word you, is 12 in the string. And let's check that. So C is 0, A is 1, T is 2, C is again 3, H is 4, space is 5, M is 6, E is 7, space is 8, I is 9, F is 10, space is 11, and then Y is 12, right? So that's why you get 12 as the answer, because the index position of the alphabet Y, which is the starting alphabet of the argument that you pass to the function, it exists in the string firstly. That's why you don't see -1 as a result, and the index position of Y is 12. That's why you get that as the answer. And if we check it with some string that doesn't exist in the string, let's say we check it with us instead of you, then we get -1, right? Because the word us doesn't exist in the string. The last method that we're going to check out in this tutorial is the isLower method, and this method checks whether all characters in the calling string are in lowercase or not, right? So I'm going to again change the value of my string object. I'm going to change it to hello world, world, right? And you guys must have noticed that the H of the word hello and the alphabet W of the word world, they are uppercase alphabets, they're not small case alphabets, right? So I'll press the enter key to create my string object, and when I call the isLower method with the string object str1, I don't have to pass in anything as an argument to this function. I just have to keep my parentheses empty, and I see false, and that's because, as I said, there are two alphabets in the string that are not lowercase alphabets. But let me change the value of the string object. I'll change it to hello world, and this time I have all alphabets as small case alphabets. And now if I would execute this function, I would get true as the result, and that's because all alphabets are indeed lowercase alphabets, right? So I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. That's all I wanted to discuss, and in the next tutorial we are going to discuss more string functions, and I hope you're having fun in this course, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 27th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to check out few more string functions. And the first method that we're going to have a look at is the isUpper function, and this function checks whether all characters in a string are in uppercase or not, right? So it's a similar method to isLower. The only difference is that the isLower method checks whether all characters are in lowercase or not, whereas the isUpper method, the one that we're going to check out right now, checks whether all characters are in uppercase or not, right? So I'll create a string object first, and I'll call it str1, and I'll give it the following text: have a nice day, right? And as you can see, all the characters are in uppercase, and I'll press the enter key to create my string object, and I'll execute the isUpper function by first typing in the name of my string object, which is str1, and then follow that up with a period or the dot operator, and then the name of the function, which is isUpper, and then a set of empty parentheses, right? Because this is a function, so we need to have parentheses after the function name. When I press the enter key, I see true as the result, and that's because all characters in this string are indeed in uppercase, right? And the next method that we're going to check out is the len method, or the length function in Python. And this function returns the number of characters in the string. So to execute the length, wait a second, let me get my cursor here. So to execute the length method on the str1 object, I'll type in len first, that is len, and then within parentheses I'll type in the name of my string, which is str1. When I press the enter key, I see 15 as a result, and that's because there are 15 characters in the string, and we can confirm that. So the word have has 4, and then the alphabet A takes the count to 5, nice has 4 more characters, takes the count to 9, and then day has 3 characters, takes the count to 12, and then we also have 3 space characters in between, so the total count is 15, and that's why the length object, the length function returns 15 as the answer, right? And the next method that we're going to check out is the lower method, and this method changes all the uppercase characters in the string to lowercase characters, right? So if I would execute the lower method with the string str1, I'll type in the string object name first, which is str1, and then lower, which is the method name, and then follow that up with a pair of empty parentheses, and there you go. I see the same string, but this time I see all characters in lowercase, right? So the next method that we're going to check out is the lstrip method, and this method removes characters from the left side of the string, and that's why it's called lstrip. And it's actually a very useful function, so I'll just demonstrate it to you, and then I'll talk a bit about it. So I'll change the value of my string object str1, and what I'll do is I'll have a few exclamation symbols. Let me have like 7 of these. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. You can have as many as you want, but I'm just, for the sake of demonstration, I'm having 7. And then I'll have some more text in my string, like what's up dudes, right? And I'll press the enter key to create my string. And if I would execute let's say I want to remove all these exclamation symbols from my string. I just want the text what's up dudes, right? So as you can see, these exclamation symbols are present on the left side of the string, so I can use the lstrip method to remove all these characters. So the way I'm going to do that is I'll type in str1 first, and then the method name, which is lstrip, and then within parentheses and single quotes I'll pass the exclamation symbol, right? When I press the enter key, now I just see the text what's up dudes, I don't see the exclamation symbols. And if these symbols were present on the right side of the string instead of being present on the left side, then the lstrip method would have done nothing. It would have returned the string as is. But since these were present on the left side, as a result, we got the characters that are followed by the bunch of exclamation symbols, right? And the counterpart of this method is the rstrip method, which removes characters from the right side. So let me demonstrate that function to you guys too. So I'll change the value of the str1 string object again. I'll change it to something like this is so cool, and I'll follow this up with a few exclamation symbols as well, right? And then to execute the rstrip method, I'll type in the string object name first, just as I did with the lstrip, and the string object name is str1. Follow that up with a dot and then the name of the function, which is rstrip, and within parentheses I'll type in the exclamation symbol within single quotes, right? Because this is the character that we wish to remove, and when I press the enter key, I just see this is so cool and I don't see the exclamation symbols, right? So the next method that we're going to check out, the last one in this tutorial, is the upper method. And what this function does is it changes the case of all characters to uppercase, right? So it's the counterpart of the lower method. And if I would execute that method with the string object str1, I'll have to type in the object name first, follow that up with the function name, which is upper, and a pair of empty parentheses. When I press the enter key, I see this is so cool, and the exclamation symbol, of course, those are special characters, so their case cannot be changed, so they're returned as is, right? So I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we are going to try to wrap up our discussion on string functions, and then we're going to check out some more interesting stuff in Python. So I hope you guys are having fun in this course, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 28th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial, we're going to wrap up our discussion on string functions, and we're going to check out a few more. So the first method that we are going to check out is the replace method, and as the name suggests, the method replaces a part of a string or an entire string with a new string, right? So let me create a string object first, and I'll call it str1, and I'll give it the following value: I once had a fox, right? Which is not true, but I'm just creating the string object with this text. And let's say I want to replace the word fox in the string with the word lion, right? So currently, if I view the contents of the string, the text that I have in it is I once had a fox. Now let's say I want to replace the word fox with the word lion. So the way I'm going to do that is by typing in str1, which is the name of my string object, and then follow that up with a full stop, a dot operator, or a period, whatever you guys want to call it, and then the name of the function replace, right? And within parentheses, I'm going to pass two arguments to the function. The first one is going to be the text that I want to replace. So let's say I want to replace the text fox, right? So I'll have to pass it within single quotes, obviously, because it's a part of a string, right? And then the second argument is going to be what I want this text to be replaced with. So let's say I want to replace it with the lion. So I'll type in lion within single quotes as the second argument. When I press the enter key, I see the text of the string str1, but instead of the word fox, I see the word lion, right? So fox has been replaced by lion. That's all about the replace function. The next method that we're going to check out is the split method, and the split method splits a string on the occurrence of an optional delimiter found as an argument, right? That's the proper formal definition of the function, and I'm just going to demonstrate it to you to explain what it does. So I'll change the value of my string str1 to Tom Cruise, right? And let's say I want to split this string into two different words, right? And I want to have Tom as one item, and I want to have Cruise as another item. So the character on the basis of which I want the split function to work is the space character, right? Because there's a space between Tom and Cruise, and that's how Python is going to figure out that it has to split the string, in two words, Tom and Cruise. Now, if there was another character other than the space character between the words Tom and Cruise, and if I wanted, the split function to work on that, then I would have had to pass that character within single quotes as an argument to the split function. But in this case, the space character is actually the default delimiter for the split function, so you don't have to pass in anything. So I'll simply type in str1, and then the dot operator, and then the name of the function split, and within parentheses, as I said, since space is the default delimiter, I don't have to pass anything. there you go. I see a list with two items. The first one is the first word from the string Tom Cruise, and the second one is the second word from the string Tom Cruise, right? So that's it about the split function. The next method that we're going to check out is the strip method, and this method performs trimming on both ends. So in the last tutorial, we checked out the lstrip and rstrip methods, and we observed that the lstrip method removes characters from the left part of a string, and the rstrip method removes characters from the right part of a string. The strip method does both things simultaneously, right? So I'll change the value of my string object str1 to something like, I'll have a few hash characters first, and then I'll type in some text like good morning, and then I'll have a few more hash characters, right? So if I would have used the lstrip method on this string with the hash character passed as an argument, it would have only removed these characters, the ones that you see at the beginning of the string. And if I would have used the rstrip method, only the characters at the end would have been removed. But if I use the strip method, let me demonstrate what that does. str1.strip, and within parentheses and single quotes, I'll pass in the character hash. When I press the enter key, I just see the text good morning. So the hash characters have been removed from both ends of the string, from the beginning as well as the end. So the next method that we're going to check out is the swap case method, and this is a very simple method to understand. It converts the lowercase characters to uppercase characters and vice versa, right? So I'm again going to change the value in my str1 string object, and I'm going to change it to something like I love Python. So as you guys can see, the first alphabet in the string is the alphabet I, which is an uppercase alphabet here, and then I have the word love, which has all characters in uppercase, and then I have the word Python, which has all characters in lowercase. I'll press the enter key to create the string object, and if I use the swap case method with this string object, I type in swap case, and within parentheses I don't have to pass in anything. It doesn't take in any arguments. I'll simply press the enter key to see that the characters that were initially in uppercase are now being displayed as lowercase. So I is being displayed as lowercase I, love is being displayed, all alphabets are in lowercase, and Python, which was initially in lowercase, is now being displayed as uppercase, right? And the last method that we're going to check out, the last string function that we're going to check out in this course, is the title function, and this function changes case of characters in such a way that the starting character of each word is uppercase, and the rest of the characters are in small case, right? So if I execute the title method with the string object str1, I'll type in title, and within parentheses I don't have to pass in any argument. When I press the enter key, I see that the starting alphabet of the word love, which is L, is being displayed as uppercase, and the starting alphabet of the word Python, which is P, is also being displayed as uppercase, and all other characters in these two words are being displayed as lowercase. And since the word, the first alphabet of the string is actually I, which is a single character, that's obviously being displayed as an uppercase alphabet, right? So I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next video, in which we'll discuss more interesting Python features, and I hope you guys are enjoying this course, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 29th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to check out a few list functions. And the first method that we're going to have a look at is the length method, or len, in Python, and this method returns the number of elements that are present in a list. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a list, and I'll call mine mylist, and we know that we have to use square brackets to create a list, right? So I'm just going to have some numbers in my list, and I'll put in 1 and 3 and 5 and 9, and let's say I want a 4 there, right? So the list has 5 elements, and when I use the length method, I'll have to type in len, and then within parentheses I'll have to pass the name of my list, which is mylist. When I press the enter key, I see 5 as a result, and that's because the list has 5 elements, right? The next one that we're going to have a look at is the max method, and when it is used on lists that have numeric values, it returns the highest value in the list, right? So if I would use it with the list mylist, let's check out what it returns. We see 9, and that's because 9 is the highest value in the list currently. And similarly, you also have the min method, and this one returns the minimum value, the least value, and when I use it with my list, I get 1 as the result, and that's because 1 is the least value, right? The next method that we're going to check out is the count function, and this function returns the number of times an element is present in a list, and you would have to pass the number that, or the element that you wish to count in your list as an argument to the function, right? So let me change the elements that I have currently in my list now. So let's say I want 3 a few times, and I also want 1 a couple of times, and I want 5 3 times, and I want to have 7 a few times, and I want to have 9 a couple of times, right? Okay, so I have a few typos here. I get rid of those, and when I press the enter key, my list is created, right? So let's say I want to find out how many times 7 is present in the list. What I'll do is I'll type in the name of my list object, which is my list, follow that up with a dot operator, and that is nothing but a full stop or a period or whatever you guys call it, and then I'll type in count, right? And this is the name of the function that we have to use, and within parentheses I'll type in 7 because we wish to know the count of 7 in the list. When I press the enter key, I see 4, and that's because the number 7 is present 4 times in the list. The last method that we're going to check out in this tutorial is the append method, and this method is used to add an element at the end of a list. And the way we use it is, again, I'll have to type in the name of my list object first. So I'll type in my list, then a dot, and then append, the name of the method, and then the value that you wish to insert at the end of the list. And by the end, I mean the right hand side of the list. So whatever value I put in here between the parentheses, that value will go after 9 in the list, right? The only limitation of this method is that you can add one element at a time, but still it's a very popular function, and that's why I thought that we should discuss it. So let's say I want to have an 8 at the end of the list, so I'll type in 8 here, and I'll press the enter key, and I don't see any result because the function doesn't return any value. I'll type in my list to see the contents of the list, and there you go, I see that there's an 8 at the end, right? So that's it for now. In the next tutorial, we're going to check out a few more list functions, and I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. You may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 30th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we're going to check out a few more list methods, and the first method that we're going to have a look at is the insert method, and this method is used to insert an element in a list at a given index position, right? So in the last tutorial we checked out the append function, and we learned that the append function can only be used to insert an element at the end of a list. The insert method, with it you can insert an element anywhere you want in your list, right? So let's create a list first, as we did in the last tutorial, and again I'll call it my list, and I'll use square brackets, and I'll again put in some numbers in it. So 4, 1, 9, and 3, and I'll have a 7 and a 2 in it, and I'll press the enter key to create my list. And let's say I want to insert the number 6 between the numbers 7 and 2, right? So I'll have to first identify the index of the position wherein I wish to insert an element. So we know that the first element in a list has the index 0. So 4 has the index 0, 1 has the index 1, 9 has the index 2, and 3 has the index 3, 7 has the index 4, and if you want to insert an element after 7, then the index position of that element will be 5, right? So what I'll have to do is type in my list, the name of my list, follow that up with a dot, and then insert, right? And after typing in the name of my function, I'll put in a pair of parentheses, and the first argument that the function takes is the index position. So I'll have to type in 5 first, put a comma, and then the second argument has to be the element that you wish to insert. So let's say I want to put number 6. I'll type in 6 as the second argument. I'll press the enter key, and now if I have a look at my list's content, I see that there is a 6 between 7 and 2, right? So that's it about the insert function. The next function that we're going to have a look at is the remove function which is used to remove an element from a list, and it only removes one instance, and the first instance, I suppose. So if suppose you want to remove the number 9 from the list, and you have 9 a few times, like you have 9 here, and then you have 9 after 6, and then you have another 9 after 2 maybe. So the remove function only removes the first instance of the number or the element, right? So to use it, you type in the name of your list, and in this case it's my list. Follow that up with a dot, type in remove, and within parentheses pass the element that you wish to remove from the list. So I'll type in 9 here, and now when I check out the contents of my list, I see 413762, and the number 9 is no longer there, right? The next function that we're going to have a look at is the reverse method, and this method reverses the current order of elements in a list. So it does a very simple job, and if I use it with the list my list, I'll have to type in mylist.reverse and follow that up with a pair of empty parentheses. I'll press the enter key, and when I check out the contents of my list, I see that the elements are the same, but they are in the reverse order. So earlier I had 413762, now I have 267314, right? So it is a very convenient function, and you might find it useful in certain situations. And the last function that we're going to check out is the sort function, which organizes the elements of your list in ascending order by default, right? So if I wish to sort the elements of my list, I'll type in mylist.sort and follow that up with a pair of empty parentheses, press the enter key, and now when I check out the contents of my list, I see 1 2 3 4 6 7. So the elements have been arranged in ascending order, right? So that's it about list functions, and these were all the functions that I wanted to discuss in this course. In the next tutorial, we're going to talk about some tuple functions, and I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. You may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 31st tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about tuple functions, and tuples are immutable, so there is not an awful lot that you can do with tuples, and we're going to check out 3 functions in this tutorial which are not strictly tuple functions, but you can use those functions on tuples. And we're going to check out the len method, right, or the length function, and then we're going to check out the max method, and then we're going to check out the min method, right? So in order to demonstrate these functions on tuples, I'll have to create a tuple first. So I'm going to call my tuple mytuple, and that's pretty convenient. I'll put the assignment operator, and then as we know, we use the parentheses to create tuples. So I'll get in a pair of empty parentheses, and then within these parentheses I'll type in some values. So I'll type in 1 comma 2 comma, let's say I want to have an element lamb, which is a string value, and then after lamb, let's say I also want to have an apple, right? And then let's say I want to have a number, right? So I'll put in 7 there, and I'll press the enter key to create my tuple, and then I'll use the length method the way I used it with the with a list in the last tutorial. So I'll type in the name of my tuple within parentheses, and that's my tuple. I press the enter key, and I get 5 as a result, and that's because the tuple currently has 5 values. It's 1 2 3 4 and 5, right? So the next method that we're going to check out is the max method, and it's used to find the maximum element in a tuple. So I'm going to change the values of my tuple. I'll change the values to let's say I want to have numbers 78, and then 84, and then 112, and let's say I want to have minus 91, and then I want to have 43, and let's say I want to have 221, right? I'll press the enter key, and I'll use the max method on the tuple this way. I'll type in max first, within parentheses the name of my tuple, which is my tuple, and there you go. I see the result as 221, and that's because that's the highest value, right? The last function that we're going to check out in this tutorial is the min function, and I'll use it by typing in min, and within parentheses I'll simply pass the name my tuple, press the enter key, and there you go. We see that the result is minus 91 because negative 91 is the least value in this tuple, right? So that's it about tuples. In the next tutorial we are going to check out some dictionary functions, and I hope you guys had fun, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 32nd tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to check out some dictionary functions, And the first method that we're going to have a look at is the length function again, and we're going to see how it works with dictionaries. So I have to create a dictionary first, and just to refresh your memory, you create a dictionary by using curly braces in Python, right? So let's say I want to call my dictionary movies. I'll type in movies and then the assignment operator, and within curly braces I can just have key value relationships, content that I want my dictionary to hold. So let's say I want to have year values as keys, and I want to have movies that released in those years as values. So let's say I want to have 1994 as a key, and a movie that released in 1994, Pulp Fiction, right? So I'll type in Pulp Fiction there, and then let's say I want to have another key value relationship, so I'll put in a comma here, and I'll type in 1997, and a movie that released in 1997, Seven I guess released in 1997, so I'll type in that. And then let's say you want to have 2000 as a key, and a movie that released in the year 2000, my favorite was Castaway. But actually there's a very tough call to make between Castaway and Gladiator, but I think I'll still go with Castaway. And then let's say you want to have 2006 as a key, and my favorite movie that year, well, it was obviously Blood Diamond for me, so I'll type in that. And then I'll press the enter key to create my dictionary, right? So it's there now. I can see the contents by simply typing in the name of the dictionary and pressing the enter key. So there we go. I have 2000, Castaway, 1994, Pulp Fiction, 1997, Seven, 2006, Blood Diamond, right? And the elements are returned, or the key value relationships are returned in a random order always. And now let's say I wish to find out the number of elements that I have, or the number of key value relationships that I have in this dictionary. I'll type in len, and within parentheses pass the name of my dictionary, and I get the result as 4. So the best way in which you can describe this result is by saying that there are 4 key value associations or key value relationships in this dictionary. And you could also say that there are 4 keys or there are 4 values, but as I said, the best way to describe this is that there are 4 key value associations. And we can also just check out the keys in the dictionary, and we know how to do this. We use the keys method, and we've checked this out earlier in the course, but again, I'll refresh your memory. So movies, and then put in a dot, and then keys and empty parentheses. So I just see the keys now: 2000, 994, 997, and 2006, right? And then let's say I just want to see the values, right? So I'll type in movies and then values after a dot and then empty parentheses, and there we go. This time we just see the values, so Castaway, Pulp Fiction, Seven, and Blood Diamond. Now let's say you want to add some more keys and some more values to your dictionary, and let's say there's another. Describe this result is by saying that there are 4 key value associations or key value relationships in this dictionary, and you could also say that there are 4 keys or there are 4 values, but as I said, the best way to describe this is that there are 4 key value associations. And we can also just check out the keys in the dictionary, and we know how to do this. We use the keys method, and we've checked this out earlier in the course, but again, I'll refresh your memory. So movies, and then put in a dot, and then keys and empty parentheses. So I just see the keys now: 2000, 994, 997, and 2006, right? And then let's say I just want to see the values, right? So I'll type in movies and then values after a dot and then empty parentheses, and there we go. This time we just see the values, so Castaway, Pulp Fiction, Seven, and Blood Diamond. Now let's say you want to add some more keys and some more values to your dictionary, and let's say there's another dictionary that has some key value associations, and you want to add the contents of the second dictionary to your movies dictionary. So let's create another dictionary first, and I'll call this new, and again I'll use curly braces, and let's say I want to add the key 1972 to it, and a movie that released that year, The Godfather, right? So I'll type in that, and let's say I want to have 1980 as a key, and a movie that released that year, Raging Bull, and again I'll put in a comma and have one more key value association, 2004, and a movie that released that year, The Aviator. Okay, and I'll press the enter key to create my dictionary. I can check out the contents by simply typing the name and pressing the enter key. 1980 Raging Bull, 1972 The Godfather, 2004 The Aviator. So let's say I want to add these three key value associations to my dictionary movies. I do that by typing in the name of my first dictionary or the target destination dictionary, whatever you want to call it. Follow that up with a dot and then the name of the function update, and within parentheses pass in the name of the dictionary, the contents of which you want to add to the movies dictionary. So that in this case is new. And when I press the enter key and check out the contents of movies now, I see that it has these values: 2000 Castaway and 2006 Blood Diamond. It has Pulp Fiction, and it has Seven, but it also has 1972 The Godfather, it has 1980 The Raging Bull, and it also has 2004 The Aviator. So the contents of the dictionary new have been added to the contents of the dictionary movies. The last method that we're going to check out in this tutorial and in this course about dictionaries is the clear method, and this method is used to clear the contents of a dictionary. So if I use it with the movies method, I'll type in movies and then the name of the function clear and press the enter key after a pair of empty parentheses. Now if I check out the contents of movies, I see that I get a pair of curly braces, but I don't see any content, and that's because all the contents have been erased, right? So that's it for now. In the next tutorial, we're going to check out something interesting again about Python, and I hope you guys are having a good time programming in Python, and it's such an interesting language. You can never get bored of it. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care and happy programming. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 33rd tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about date and time functions. And there are a lot of interesting date and time functions in Python, and there are so many modules that you can import, and you can use the methods in those modules. But since we have a time constraint, I'm not going to talk about all the date and time functions. I'm just going to talk about the most interesting ones, and the ones that I find most useful. So the first method that we're going to check out is called the time method, and this method requires a module of the same name, which is time, right? So I'll import the module first by typing in import space time, and this method returns the timestamp of the current time, right? So it returns the current timestamp, that is, and the timestamp is the number of seconds that have elapsed between January 1, 1970, 12 a.m. and the current time, right? So if I call this function, I have to type in time.time. The first time is the name of the module, the second time is the name of the function, and empty parentheses, and there you go. This is the current timestamp, 139.359.8815 and something, right? So this number is extremely useful. Using this number you could pull out so many values like the year, the day, the the time, number of hours, number of minutes, number of seconds, so many things. And the beauty of working with timestamps is that each second has a different timestamp, right? So if I would execute this function again, I would get a different value, and that's because more seconds have elapsed and the timestamp has changed, right? So to convert this number into something more readable, something that we can work with, I'll use the local time function of the time module, and as an argument to this I'll pass the current timestamp, right? So when I do that, I see that the year is 2014, the month is 2, which is February, the day of the month is 28th, and then the time right now is 20:17:48, which is 8 p.m. 8:17 p.m. and 48 seconds have elapsed. And this is the 4th day of the week. So by default Monday has the index 0, right? So Monday is 0, Tuesday is 1, and Wednesday is 2, Thursday is 3, and Friday is 4, and today is Friday. That's why I see the value 4 here. And it's also the 59th day of the year, and in my country daylight saving is not used, so that's why I see the value 0 here, right? So we get this 9-item tuple when we execute the local time function. And if we want to get even more useful information, or even more comprehensible information, then we can use the ASC time function, right? And again, that function requires a time module. I'll type in ASC time and a set of parentheses, and when I do that, I see the same values, but as a string firstly. So I don't get a tuple this time, I get a string, and it's much more pleasant to the eyes. So the day is Friday and it's February 28th and the time is 2018:49 and the year is 2014, right? So this is much cooler. And the next method that we're going to check out is the make time function. It's called make time, but it's actually mk time, right? And this function works with this kind of a tuple, and it returns a timestamp. So let's say we want a timestamp for not the current date or the current time. We want a timestamp for some day that has passed, or some day that is going to happen like 20 years later, right? So to do something of that sort, the first thing that we'll do is we'll create a tuple, and I'm going to call this tuple my tuple, and I'll use parentheses to create it, of course. And let's say I want to work with the year 1993 and April. So the second argument is the month number, and that's why I'll type in 4 here if we have to work with April. And let's say I want to see the timestamp for 6th April, so I'll type in 6 as the third argument. And let's say the time for which I want to see the timestamp is 3:23 p.m. and 15 seconds, so I'll type in 15 here for 3. And we're working with the 24-hour format, just to clarify things, and then 23 minutes and 15 seconds. And let's say I don't have any information about what day of the week that is, or what day of the year that is, or let's just put 0 as the daylight saving value. And when I press the enter key, the tuple is created. Now if I want to see the timestamp of this date, all I have to do is type in time.mktime and then pass in this tuple as an argument to the function. And there you go, I see the timestamp value. And again, I can use the time.localTime method to make more sense out of this tuple. Like for instance, these are missing values at the moment, the 0 here and the 0 here. We don't know what these values are, but if I pass this timestamp to the local time function, then I can find out, right? So I'll do that by typing time.localTime and then time.mktime and the name of the tuple as an argument, right? So when I press the enter key, I see that this day happens to be the first day of the week, so that's Tuesday, and it also happens to be the 96th day of the year. So 6th April 1993, and we see the time also, that's 3:23 p.m. and 15 seconds. So we get this information, and we can pull out individual items out of this tuple in case you want just parts of this date. And there's so much you can do, right? So we're going to check out some more interesting date and time functions in the next tutorial. I hope you guys like this tutorial, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 34th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to continue our discussion on date and time functions, and we're going to check out a few more interesting methods, right? So the first method that we're going to check out is the sleep method, and it also requires the time module. And this method delays the execution of the calling function or the script by a given number of seconds. So if you use it, then the next command that you have in your function or the next command that you have in your script, that gets executed with some delay, right? So I have a script file here, and I've already saved it. It has the name sleep, and I'll import the time module in the script first, because as I said, to use this method you have to use the time module and you have to import it. And let's say I want the script to just display the text hello world on screen. So to display the text, I'll use a print function, hello world, and I'll put an exclamation symbol at the end. And I want the text to be displayed after a wait of, let's say, 7 seconds, right? So I'll get the wait by typing in time.sleep, and then within parentheses I'll simply pass in 7 as an argument, right? So let's run this program, and there we go. We see that the cursor is blinking, and exactly after 7 seconds we will see our text, right? So there we go, we see hello world. And you could pass in any number of seconds as an argument to the sleep method, and it's extremely useful. You would find so many applications of it, where you want things to happen but after some delay, and it's really cool. The next method that we're going to check out is the month method, and this method requires the calendar module, right? So I'll import the module first by typing in import space calendar, and this method takes two arguments. The first is the year value and the second is the month value, and it returns the calendar of the month, right? So I'll actually use a print statement to see the output of this function. So I'll type in calendar dot month, and let's say I want to see the calendar of March 1965. So March is the third month of the year, so I'll type in 1965 first, follow it up with a comma and then 3, and I'll press the enter key to see the calendar of March, right? This is so cool. And if you want to see the calendar of the entire year, then you could use the calendar method instead. So again, I'll type in print first, and then within parentheses calendar, the name of the module, and calendar, the name of the function, and it takes quite a few arguments. The first argument happens to be the year, the calendar of which you wish to see. So let's say I want to see the calendar of 1994. I'll type in that first, and then I'll type in 2, and this number is the maximum width that I want each date to occupy. So I want 2 as the maximum width for each date, and let's say I want each week to occupy maximum 1 line, so I'll type in 1 here, and the method actually returns the calendars of individual months in 3 columns. So if suppose I want 10 characters of space between each column, then I'll pass in 10 as the last argument. When I press the enter key, I see this as the output. Isn't this amazing? I mean, I see calendars of all months, and there's a space of 10 characters between each column, and you can check that out. So I have the cursor blinking immediately after U of Sunday here, so I start counting 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10, right? So we have 10 characters of space. If you want this to be spread out a little more, then you could increase the space to 15 characters or 20 characters or as much as you want, right? The next method that we're going to check out is the isLeap method, and this method tells us whether the year that's passed as an argument to it is a leap year or not. It's a very simple function, and it uses the calendar module again. So I'll type in calendar dot isLeap, and as an argument to it, I'll pass 2008. And when I press the enter key, I see true as the result, and that's because 2008 was a leap year. And if I would execute this method again with an argument 2009, I would see false because 2009 was not a leap year, right? So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys liked it, and that's all I have to say about date and time functions. And we might check out a few more later on in the course if at all I come to a stage where I find the use of something, so I discuss it if I haven't discussed it already in the last 2 tutorials. And thank you so much. As I said, you guys have to program in Python to get a hang of all these methods, and try to use these methods in your scripts now, right? We know how to create scripts, we know how to run scripts, and we've seen so many functions, date and time functions, dictionary functions, string functions, number functions, and lists and tuples, and all those methods. Unless you use them, you're not going to get a hang of them. So use the functions, and happy programming, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 35th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about functions, not predefined functions in Python, but user defined functions, the ones that you can create and use for the sake of your own convenience, right? So a function, those of you who haven't programmed in any other language before, is a block of code that performs some task and can be called by a name. You can give a name to a piece of code, and you can call it whenever you need it in your program, right? And the main advantage of using functions is reusability of code. So what I mean by that is, if suppose there is something that you want to do in your program a bunch of times. Let's say you want to find the product of 2 numbers 10 times, then instead of using the multiplication operator 10 times, you could create a function in which you have the operation performed, and you can just call that function 10 times with 10 different sets of arguments, and you could find the products of numbers. So this is a very small example that I gave you. Generally people use functions when they want to do something complicated over and over again, right? So this is different from a loop, by the way. in case of a loop, you have different iterations with different inputs. With a function, you have the same thing happening over and over again, but you can vary the inputs to the function if you want to. So anyway, that's enough of me talking. The way you create a function in Python is by using the def keyword, or the define keyword, and you type in that, you give a space, and then you type in a name for your function. So I'm going to call the first function that we're going to make in this program as sample, and let's say this function takes in some value right from the program. So let's assume that that value is a string, and through this function we just want to display that string on screen, right? So I'm just going to type in text here, and this is a placeholder for the value that we're going to pass to this function. After the closing parentheses of the argument list, I'm going to put in a colon, and when I press the enter key, I'll get inside the body of this function. And since I just want to print the text that has been passed to this function, I simply use a print statement, and within parentheses I'll just type in text, right? And the next thing that I'm going to do is type in return, right? So this is important in Python. When you want to get out of a function's body, you have to type in this keyword, and when I press the enter key, I see that the cursor blinks on the previous level of indentation, right? So this is where I came from, and this is where I am now, right? So this means that I'm outside the body of the function sample. And to call this function, all I have to do is type in the name of the function, and as an argument to this, I'll have to pass in some text, right? So I'm simply going to pass in hello world, and I'll save the file, and when I run the program, I see that I get the text hello world on screen, right? So this was the simplest example of function that I could think of. It just takes some text input as an argument, and it just displays that text on screen, right? Now it's not necessary for your function to take in some argument. So let's say I am not going to pass anything to this function, and I'm just going to use a print statement in the function to display some text. So I'll display something like I will print this no matter what. So even if you don't pass in an argument to me, I'm still going to print this. I'll save the file, and since I haven't written a placeholder here within the parentheses, I don't have to pass in any argument, so I can get rid of this string argument that I have in here, and I'll save the file now, and when I execute it, I see this text. So this is despite the fact that I haven't passed in any text to the function, but since I have a print statement in the function, and since I have called the function using its name, this statement will execute when the function is called, right? The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to see how we can create a function that takes in more than one argument, right? So we're going to make a 4-function calculator, and what I mean by that is we're going to make a function that takes in 2 numbers, and then it performs the addition operation, subtraction operation, multiplication and division on those 2 numbers in a sequence. So I'm going to call this function calculator, and in the parameter list I'm going to type in a comma b. So these are my dummy parameters, or placeholders, or whatever you want to call them. And then on the next line, I'm going to use a print statement to display the result of the addition of a and b, right? So addition, I'll put a colon after the second double quotation mark, I'll put a comma, and then I'll type in a plus b, and I'll just copy this statement and paste it a few times. Okay, wait a second, I'll have to do this, and then one more time, and one more time. Okay, so the second case has to be for subtraction, so I'll get rid of addition here and type in subtraction, and I have to change this to a minus b, and this has to be for multiplication, so I'll change addition to multiplication, and this has to be changed to a asterisk b. An asterisk is the multiplication operator, and the last has to be for division, so I'll change addition to division and the operator to the slash, right? I'll save the file, and on the next line I type in return, move out of the function, and now I'll simply call the function with the, let's say, 155 comma 25 as the 2 arguments. So I'll save it again, and when I run the program, I see all these 4 operations performed, and I see all the results. So addition, the result is 180, subtraction, the result is 130, multiplication, the result is 3875, and division result is 6.2, right? So now we are in a better state to talk about the utility of functions. So, let's say in your program you want to do these things 100 times. Then, if you were not using functions, then you would have to type in these statements, 100 times 4, that is 400 times. But since you're using functions, all you have to do is you have to, just call your function by typing in its name. And if suppose, in each of those 100 times you wanted to, have different sets of numbers, you could pass in different numbers as arguments, right? So, that's how cool functions are. And, I don't necessarily have to go back to the script and execute it, with different inputs. So let's say if I want to, call the function calculator with 25 and 5 as inputs, I can do it this way by going to the script and executing it, or I could simply type in calculator here and have in my arguments here. So 25 and 5. When I do that, I get this, and this is because the shell was restarted here and this function was called, and then the calculator function was kind of stored in the memory. So now you have access to it. But if I would press Control and F6 and restart my shell, and now if I would try to use the function calculator with some input like 15 and 3, I would get an error because now the shell has been restarted, so this function no longer exists in the buffer memory or whatever, right? And the significance of the return statement is not just that it gets you out of the function body, but it could also be used to pass an expression back to the calling function or the main program, if you've called the function in the main program. So if that sounds complicated, let me just show you something. So let's say in this calculator function, you don't want to find out all these things. Instead, you just want to find out what is the result of a raised to the power b, right? So I'll type in a variable name here and assign the result of a raised to the power b to that variable. So I'll use the exponentiation operator or the double asterisk symbol, and I'll type a double asterisk and then b, and I'll type in return to move out of the function, but after the word return I'll type in var. So in a way I'm instructing Python that I want to get outside the function body, but I also want to return this value that I've just computed on line number 2, right? And while calling the function, what I'll do is I'll call it inside the print statement to display the value. So I'm not using the print statement inside the function here, so I'll have to use it outside in the main program, and I would have to call this function with some argument, right? So I'll type in calculator, and as arguments to it I'll pass 6, 3. So this function will calculate 6 to the power 3 for me. I'll save the file. When I run it, I should see 216 as the answer, and that's what I see, right? So that's one more thing that you can do using the return statement. So anyway, that's it for now. In the next tutorial, we are going to talk about functions in a little more detail. We're going to talk about what's the difference between passing by reference and passing by value, and what happens in Python, whether we pass by reference in Python or whether we pass by value. And I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. You may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 36th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the difference between passing values by reference and passing values by value, right? Or passing variables by reference and passing variables by value. So when you pass something by reference, what you're doing is you're passing the object itself, and when you're passing something by value, what you're doing is you're creating a copy of that object or the variable, and you're passing the copy to the function. So whereas when you pass something by reference, any change that you make to the variable inside the function, those changes are reflected to the outside value as well. Whereas if you pass something by value, then the changes that you make to the function copy of the variable, those changes are not reflected back to the calling function, right? So I guess all of this will be clear if I demonstrate the concept through an example, right? So that's what we're going to do now. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a dictionary called employee, and in the dictionary I'm going to have names of employees as keys and their IDs as values, right? So let's say I have 3 employees in an organization, and the name of the first one is Alex, and let's say the ID of Alex is 1500, and let's say the name of the second employee is John, and the ID of John is 1200, and let's say the name of the third employee is Peter, and the ID of Peter is 1400, right? And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the def keyword and create a function called test that takes this dictionary employee as an argument, right? And I'll put in a colon, get inside the function's body. Now let's say two more employees have joined the organization, and I have the details of these two employees in another dictionary called new, and I'll create it, and let's say the name of the first employee is Buck and the ID of Buck is 2000, right? And the name of the second employee is Stan and the ID of Stan is 4000, right? And let me update the employee dictionary, because these two employees are new entrants to the organization, so obviously the employee dictionary would have to be updated, and we're going to use the update dictionary function to update the employee dictionary. I'll type in employee.update, and then within parentheses I'll pass in the name of the dictionary that has the new values, and which in this case is new. And next I'm going to use a print function to display the value of the employee dictionary from within the function, right? So inside the function, the employee dictionary is this, and I'm going to type in the return keyword, get outside the function body, and then simply call the function by typing in test, and as an argument to it I have to pass the employee dictionary that I created outside the function. And on the next line I'm going to use the print statement to display the contents of the dictionary from outside the function, right? So outside the function, and I'll put in a colon here, and then employee, right? I'll save the file and run it, and there we go. We see that inside the function I have John, Alex, Buck, Peter, and Stan, and outside the function also I have John, Alex, Buck, Peter, and Stan. And this is despite the fact that outside the function the employee dictionary had only 3 values. It only had Alex, John, and Peter. But since we changed this dictionary inside the test function, these changes have been reflected outside the test function as well. So this proves the fact that in Python variables are passed by reference and not by value. Now if suppose I get rid of this statement, I don't change the employee dictionary this way, and if I change it this way, as in if I make a new employee object inside my test function, and if I let the other employee object outside the test function be as is, I'll save the file now, and when I run the program I see that inside the function I have Stan and Buck as the only 2 employees in the organization, and outside the function I have John, Alex, and Peter. So the values outside are the same as the values with which I created the dictionary originally, right? So what has happened here is that inside the test function I am not using the employee object that was passed to the function. Instead I've created a new employee object and I've assigned it new values, right? So this is a new dictionary, and this is different from the dictionary that was passed to the function. So this is a local variable, and the one that we used in the other case, that was a global variable, and we're going to talk about local and global variables in a couple of tutorials. But for the time being, I just wanted to tell you guys that in Python, whatever values you pass to your functions, those values are the actual objects that are passed, right? So I hope you guys have now understood the difference between calling by reference and calling by value, and also how things work in Python. And I'll see you in the next video, in which we'll discuss something interesting again, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 37th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about functions with variable length arguments in Python, right? So there may be situations in which while defining a function you're not sure about the number of arguments that will be passed to the function, right? Through the function call statement. So in those cases it makes sense to have some kind of a method through which you can instruct Python that your function is going to receive any number of arguments, and you're not sure about the number, but you want Python to deal with as many arguments that are passed to the function, right? So let's see an example of this to understand how we can get this done. So I'm going to create a function, and I'm going to call this variable, and as an argument to it as I said, I don't know the number. So if suppose I knew that this function was going to receive 3 arguments, I would have typed a comma b comma c, or var1, var2, var3. But since I'm not sure about the number, I'm just going to type in an asterisk symbol, and this is important. This is a part of the syntax of getting variable arguments for your function. So I'll type an asterisk first, and then I could type in any name, and actually all the inputs that are passed to a function that receives variable arguments are stored in a tuple. So I'm going to call this my tuple, right? And I'll put in a colon, get inside, and then I'm going to use the for loop to iterate over the arguments that are passed, and I'm going to display each of them. So I'll need a dummy variable for my for loop, so I'm going to call that var, and then I'll type in the in keyword, and then I'm simply going to type in the name of the tuple that holds the content, so that in this case will be my tuple, and I'll put in a colon to get inside the body of for loop, and then I'll simply use the print statement to display each item, right? And then I'll get outside the for loop, type in the return statement here, get outside the function, and let's say I just want to call this function with 1 argument, right? So I'll type in 10 here, I'll save the file, and I'll run it, and there we go, I see 10. Now if I call this function, I don't have to go back to the script to call it firstly. If I call this function with multiple arguments, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So I'm calling it with 5 arguments now, and still I see that all the 5 arguments are being displayed, right? And I can call it with the with string inputs as well. So let's say I want to call it with the hello as 1 argument, and the second argument could be world. When I press the enter key, I see hello and world. So this thing is useful in situations, as I said, when you don't know the number of arguments that you're going to receive. So for instance, on your website you have some space where the users are going to enter their names, and you're not sure whether users are going to enter just their first names, or their first name as well as the last name. So in that case, you're not sure about the arguments that you're going to receive, so you could use variable length arguments there and get your job. So anyway, I hope you guys like this tutorial, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video, in which we'll discuss something interesting about Python again, and thank you so much for watching this one, and take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 38th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about anonymous functions in Python. Now sometimes you'd want to make functions that do very little stuff, like add 2 numbers, or simply display the numbers, and if you know that your function is not going to do something complicated, then you could use anonymous functions. And anonymous functions, as the name suggests, are functions that don't have any names, right? So let's just see one, and let's see how Python allows us to use these functions. So let's say I want to make an anonymous function to find the product of 2 numbers. So I'll have to first type in a variable name that is going to be used as a reference to this anonymous function, right? So I'll type in product as the name, and I'll use the assignment operator, and then I'll type in a keyword lambda. And whenever you create an anonymous function, you have to use this keyword, and I'll give a space after that. And since I want to find the product of 2 numbers, I'll have to use 2 placeholders for the values that are passed to this anonymous function. So let's say I want to use var1 and var2. So I'll type in var1 comma var2, and then I'll put in a colon here, and then I'll type in var1 asterisk var2 to find the product of these numbers, and that's it. This is in itself an anonymous function, and now I simply have to use a print statement to display the result of the product of numbers that is calculated using this anonymous function. So let's say I want to find out the product of 5 and 12. I'll type in print, and I'll just display some text like result, and I'll put in a colon here, and now I'll have to first type in the reference name, which is product, and within parentheses I'll have to pass in 2 values. So let's say I want to find out the product of 5 and 12. I'll type in these numbers here, I'll save the file, and when I run it, I see that the result is 60, right? So that's about anonymous functions, and I don't find them much useful, to be honest. I use the other functions because when you're working with large programs, there's rarely ever a situation when you want to do something as simple as this. And if you want to do something even like 5% more complicated than this, then it makes sense to have a proper function that has a name, so that you can refer to it whenever you want to. And I just find that useful, but then you could like anonymous functions too, it's a concept that's there, and I thought that I should discuss with you guys. So I hope you guys had fun watching the tutorial, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 39th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the difference between global and local variables and how Python distinguishes between global and local variables, right? So those of you who programmed in other languages like C or C++ or Java, you guys must be having some idea about how local variables are different from global variables. But those of you who haven't programmed in any language, it's really simple. A variable that you create in your main program is a global variable. So that variable is known anywhere in the program, whether you have a function or you have a function within a function. That variable is known to all parts of the program, whereas a variable that you create inside a function has what you call a local scope. So that variable is known within the function, but when you go outside it, since the variable scope is only limited to the function, that variable outside the function is not known. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a very simple program to demonstrate this to you. So I'll have a variable in my program that I'm going to call var, and I'll give it the value 100, and then I'll create a function and I'll call this function sample, and it's not going to take in any argument at the moment. And then I'll create another variable in this function, and I'm going to call the variable var again, right? So the names of the two variables is the same, and I'll give this one the value 0. And on the next line I'm going to print this the value of the variable var, and within double quotes I'll simply type in local value, and that's because we are displaying the value of the variable from inside the function. And I'll type in var after the comma here, and I'll type in return to move out of the body of the function. And now I'll use another print statement to display the value of the variable from outside the function. So global value, and I'll put in a colon and a comma and var here. And next I'll call the function sample by typing in sample and a pair of empty parentheses. I'll save the file, and when I run the program I see that the global value is 100 and the local value is 0. Right? This is because this variable is known to have the value 100 outside the program, but as soon as we go inside the program, we have another variable of the same name that has the value 0. So since we are calling this print statement from within the function, and we are accessing the value of the variable var that's local to the function, that's why we are seeing the value 0 printed for the local value. And outside the function we are again going to have access to the global value, so that's why we're seeing 100 as a result. Now if I make some modifications to this program, and what I can do is I can pass the variable value 100 as an argument to this function, right? So I'll type in var here, and even while calling the function I can type in var, and should I make any more changes? No, I don't have to make any more changes. I'll save the file, and when I run the program I'll still see the same thing, and that's because even though I'm making a pass of this value to the function, I'm creating another object of the name var, and I'm giving it the value 0. So this value, the 100 that I passed to this function, is actually never being used. So again, in this print statement we are referring to the variable that we've created inside the function, right? So the one that has been created within the function sample, and the one that has local scope. And if I would remove this statement from the function, if I would save the program and execute the program now, I would see that now I see the global value is 100 and the local value is 100, because we haven't created another object of the name var inside the sample function, right? So in this case the function doesn't have any option but to use the global value. So that's it for now. In the next tutorial we are again going to discuss something interesting about Python, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 40th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we'll be talking about the global keyword in Python. Now I'm going to make a very simple program, and what I'll do is I'll declare a variable and I'll call it var, and I'll give it the value 100, and then I'll declare a function and I'll call this test, and I will try to change the value of this variable to 110 from within the function, right? So to do that, I can simply type in var equals var plus 10, and then I'll also use a print function to display this value. And I have not passed this variable as an argument to the function. As you can see, there is no variable in the parameter list of the function. I'll type in the return keyword, move out of the function, and now I'll call this function by typing in test, right? I'll save the file, and when I run the program, I get an error message, right? So what happens is, when you try to update the value of a variable in a function, then Python assumes that this variable is local to the function, right? So in this case, you're getting a traceback error because this variable var is being used even though it hasn't been declared or initialized earlier, right? So in that way, it's going to return an error. Now, what if you want to make modifications to a global variable from within a function? Like, you want to change the value of this variable var, not a local variable in the test function. Like, I could create another variable var and I could give it the value 100 here, and I could update it using this statement, and the program would work perfectly fine. But what I want to do is, I want to change the value of this variable. So what I'm going to do is, inside the function, before having the statement, I'll type in the keyword global, and I'll follow that up with a space and the name of this variable var. I'll save the file now, and when I run the program, I see 110 is the answer, right? So the variable has been successfully updated. And another thing that I can do is, after making a call to the test function here outside the test function, I can print the value of the global variable. So this way we'll make sure that the modifications that we've made have actually stuck out and have been made to the global variable. So there you go, we see 110 twice, and this proves that the variable has been updated from within the function, but the value that has been updated, that is visible outside the function too. So that's it for now. I'm going to see you in the next tutorial, in which we'll discuss something interesting and important for sure again, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 41st tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about modules in Python. And a module is actually a Python script containing some code, right? And the advantage of using modules is that you can save your code, variables, functions, classes, and whatnot permanently, and you can use them by simply importing the module that contains the variables or functions. And the import statement, when used, checks for the availability of the module only in certain directories, and you can check those directories by importing the sys module and viewing the sys.path variable, and that's what we're going to do now. So I'll import the sys module by typing in import space sys, and now I'll check out the value of the path variable in this module. So when I execute this, I see that Python looks for modules in all these directories. It looks for the module in this path, and then in the system32 folder and the python33 zip file, and then simply in the python33 DLL folder and the python33 library folder, simply in the python33 folder, and this folder as well. So if you would save your Python file in the music folder or pictures or on your desktop, and you won't update this variable, then you would not be able to import the contents of your module, and that's what we're going to try to do now. So I have a file that I have saved on my desktop here. I've given it the name my module, and I'm going to put in some code in it. I'm going to declare a function. I'll call it hello, and in that function I'll have a print statement. I'll ask the user to enter his or her name, and then I'll store that input in a variable called name, and then I'll simply display a hello message, something like a greeting, right? So let's get started. I'll type in def, the def keyword, to have my function, and as I said, I'm going to call it hello. So I'll type in that and a pair of parentheses. I'll put in a colon, get inside the function, and then I'll use a print statement to ask the user for some input. So what's your name? Simple enough. And on the next line, I'll type in the name of the variable in which I want to store the input from the user. I'll call it name, and then on the next line I'll use another print statement to display the message. So I'll simply type in hello, and then a comma after this second double quotation mark, the name variable, so that the user sees his or her name, and then again in double quotes I'll put in a comma, and then a message like have a nice day, right? and then on the next line I'll type in the return keyword, move out of the function, and I'm not going to call the function in this file. I'll simply save this file and I'll go to my shell again, and I'll try to import this module by typing in import space my module, which is the name of the file that I just created, right? When I press the enter key, I'll get a traceback error, and the error that I see is no module named my module. So what happened is that Python looked for the file my module in all these folders and it could find it anywhere, so that's why it gave us this error. Now if I would go back to the file, and if I would go to file and save this file in the Python 33 folder instead, I'll go to computer and then C drive, and then I'll go to Python 33 and simply save this file here, and now I'll go back to my shell, and now if I would execute the same statement again, import Python my module, oops, there's a typo in there, wait a second, I'll go here and execute it. There we go. We see that there's no error that we get this time, right? And in order to execute the function hello in the module my module, all I have to do is type in the name of my module, put a dot, and then the name of the function hello, follow that up with parentheses. This is how we work with all the built-in functions that we've seen that belong to modules like math, or the list modules, the string object modules. All those modules, we've seen this is the syntax that we follow. I'll press the enter key, and there we go, the function is executed. Now I see the first message, what's your name? When I type in Madhur here, on the next line I'll see hello Madhur, have a nice day. So every time you want to do something like this, this is a very simple application of a module. Usually modules have like lots and lots of functions, and they do complicated stuff, so that people use modules for the sake of convenience, so that they don't have to type in the same thing over and over again in different parts of their programs. So if suppose you want to execute something like this for a different user some other day, you just import the my module, and you type in my module dot hello again, and oops, have I made a typo again? Oh god, this is so embarrassing. And wait a second, double L and a single O, and then let's say you want to execute it for John, so you type in John and you would get the message for John, right? So that's it for now. In the next tutorial we are again going to discuss something interesting, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 42nd tutorial in this course. In this tutorial we are going to talk about file handling in Python, and we learn to create a file object, create a text file, and then write some text to it, and then save the text. And we'll also see how we can read text from a text file using the read method, right? So the first thing that we have to do is create a file object, and we do that using the open function in Python, right? So I have a script file here. I have given it the name files, and I've saved it on my desktop, as you can see here. And as I said, we'll have to first create an object, so I'm going to call mine my obj, which is supposed to be a short form for my object, and then I'll use the assignment operator and the open function, and within the parentheses for the open function I'll have to pass in two arguments, right? And the first one has to be the name of the text file that I wish to open. So if you open a text file in the write mode, then if the file doesn't exist, then Python creates it for you, right? So at the moment I don't have any text file on my desktop, so I'm going to create one using Python, and I'll call it test, and the extension here is important, right? So I'll need to put in txt here because I want Python to know that what I wish to open is a text file. And as a second argument to this function, I'll pass in w, and this is supposed to be the mode in which you want to access this file, right? And in this tutorial we'll check out two other modes in which you can access text files, the read and the append mode, but for the time being we just want to create a text file and put some text in it, so that's why I'm going to access it in the write mode, right? On the next line I'll make a call to the write method by first typing in the name of the object that I've just created. So I'll type in my obj, follow that up with a dot, and then type in write, right? And within parentheses I'll I can type in whatever text I want to put in the file, right? So I'll get in triple quotes because I know that I'm going to span my input over multiple lines. So I'll just type in something random like this is so cool, and then on the next line I'll get in something like now I can create text files using Python, right? I'll get an exclamation, and then I'll follow the exclamation symbol with three double quotation marks again, because I have three double quotes at the beginning, so I'll have to match that up. And then on the next line, I'll have to make a call to the close method, and this is important. I'll tell you why in just a bit. So I'll type in my obj.close, and the reason why this is important is because in Python, if you just open a file and if you perform some operations on it, and if you don't make a call to the close method, then your changes are not saved, right? So as long as I don't make a call to the close method, this text won't be saved in the file. The file will be created, but the text won't be flushed to it. So that's why you have to always close your object if you perform write operation or append operation or something, so that the changes are saved in the file. And I'll save this, and I'll show you guys that I don't have any text file on my desktop at the moment, right? So you can be sure of that. And I'll simply press F5 to execute this. I don't see any message in the shell, but now if I'll go to my desktop, I'll see that I have a test file here, right? And it's a text file, of course, and when I double click on it, the file gets opened in my text editor, Notepad++, and I see the the text, whatever text I placed in the file, I see it here. This is so cool. Now I can create text files using Python, right? The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to copy this code, but this time I'm going to try to save something else. So I'll press Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and I'll open the text file again in the write mode, but I'm going to save different text, right? So I'll save something like let's see where this text goes. So now if you guys are wondering what's going to happen, what should happen is this text should be saved in the file, and then since we've opened the file again and we performed another write operation, then this text should follow the other text. But let's see what happens. Let's see what Python does. I'll execute the file, and I'll go to my desktop and open the test file again, and you want to reload it, of course. I just see the new text. I just see, let's see where this text goes. I don't see the older text, and that's because the new text has replaced the other text. So this text has been overwritten, and if you want to avoid this, all you'll have to do is you'll have to change the mode in which you access the file the second time to append instead of write, right? So in this way, we are instructing Python that this text is supposed to be appended to the end of the file, and it's not supposed to replace the content that's already there. And I save the file, and when I execute it now, again, I don't see any message. I'll go to my desktop and I'll open this text file and I'll reload it, and this time I see that I get the text that I saved initially. This is so cool. Now I can create text files using Python, and I also see the other text appended to this file. Let's see where this text goes, right? So now we've discussed two modes in which we can access text files. I'm going to discuss another one, and that's the read mode. And for that, what I'll do is I'll get rid of all of this, or maybe I'll keep one close call, and I'll change the mode of this text file to read, right? And since we've already created a text file, I don't have to have the write operation or the append operation in my file anymore, in my program, that is. So to read contents from a text file, we have to make a call to the read method, right? And what I'll do is I'll save the content of the text file that we've just created in a variable, and I'll call that text, right? So I'll type in text and then the assignment operator, and then the name of the object with which we've been working, which is my obj, follow that up with a dot, and then read, right, with a set of empty parentheses. I'll save the file, and let's also have the print function and display the text, right? So I'll simply type in print and within parentheses the name of the variable, which is text. I'll save the file again and execute it, and this time I see that in the output window in the shell, I see all the contents that I stored in the text file text.txt, right? So it's as simple as that. And trust me, I've worked with lots of languages, with the PHP, with the C, and Python and shell scripting. And in Python, file handling is like really simple and very cool. And maybe it's just as convenient as it is in shell scripting, but as compared to some other languages like C and all, it's very simple, and you'll have a great time working with files in Python. And in the next tutorial, we're going to check out how we can rename files and delete files using Python. And I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. You may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm going to see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 43rd tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to check out two methods, rename and remove, to rename and delete files in Python respectively, right? And both these methods belong to the OS module. So before using them, we'll have to import the module, and to do that I'll type in import space the name, which is OS, and next I'll type in os.rename. And if you guys remember, in the last tutorial we created a text file and I gave it the name test, and it's on my desktop, right? And when you start Python, ideally it doesn't start from your desktop folder, it starts from the Python 33 folder. So if you're trying to rename a file that's stored on your desktop or somewhere else on your computer, but not in the Python 33 folder, then you'll have to type in the full path of your text file before trying to rename it, right? So I'll get a pair of parentheses first, and as the first argument you have to type in the name of the file that you wish to rename, and the second argument has to be the the new name of the file. So as I said, we'll have to get the full path of the file, and I've already copied the location. I'll just paste it here. And what I'll also have to do is I'll have to escape out these slashes, because these slashes otherwise have special significance, and we don't want Python to interpret /u as an escape sequence and /m as an escape sequence. So that's why I have to inform Python that it has to treat these slashes as ordinary slashes. And I'll get another set of slashes here, and then I'll type in the name of my file that I wish to rename, which is test.txt. And as a second argument, I'll get another pair of double quotes. As I said, we have to supply the new name for the file. I'll again, I want to save it on my desktop, so I'll have to get the path first and escape out these slashes, right? And let's say I want to rename this file to new.txt. So I'll type in new.txt at the end. When I press the enter key, I don't see any message, but if I would go to my desktop, I would see that the file has been renamed to new. It's no longer test, right? So that's how we use the rename method from the OS module. And the next method that we're going to check out is the remove method, and this one is used to remove text files, and it's really simple to use. You type in os.remove, and as an argument you just type in the name of your file with the full path if it's not in the Python 33 folder. I'll copy this from here and I'll paste it, and of course I have to wrap it up within double quotes, because again the function takes string arguments. Press the enter key, and now when I go to my desktop, I see that the file no longer exists, right? So that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video, in which we'll learn how to manage directories in Python. And I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. You may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 44th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to see how we can manage folders in Python. And in the last tutorial we had a look at the rename function and the remove function in the OS module, and we saw that how we can rename and remove files. In this tutorial we're going to try to do similar things with the folders. So we're going to check out four methods: mkdir, which is used to make directories or create folders, and then we're going to check out chdir, which is a short form for changing directories. So you switch to different directories using this method. And then we're going to also check out the getCwd method, which tells you the current working directory. And then finally we're going to check out the rmdir method, which is a short form for removing directories. And all these methods belong to the OS module, so I'll obviously have to import the OS module before doing anything else. But if you guys are wondering what's up with my IDLE, why does it look so fancy, it's because I've changed the font style, and you can do that too. All you have to do for that is go to options and then click on configure IDLE, and you'll see this list of different fonts that the IDLE supports. So I've currently switched to Lucida Calligraphy. If you want to change to Lucida Fax, then you can click on it, and in this little preview window you can also see how the font style will look. And I've also changed the size to 12, and I'll just stick with the calligraphy because I somehow like it. And you just have to click on OK, and this is what I have, right? So let's check out the first method, and as I said, we'll have to import the OS module before doing anything else. So I'll do that by typing in import space OS, and then I'll make a call to the makedir method. And since ideally, as I said in the last tutorial, by default it starts in the Python 33 folder. That's its root. And let's say I want to create a folder on my desktop, and I want to call this folder new folder, and on my desktop I currently do not have any folder, right? So what I'll have to do is I'll have to type in the full path of my folder, right? I'll have to inform Python that this is where I want my folder to be created. So I'll get in double quotes, and I'll just type in this, right? And that's C drive, users, mother, desktop, that's the location, and this is the name that I want my folder to have, new folder. And I'll press the enter key, and now when I have a look at my desktop, I see that there is a folder here called new folder, and it's currently empty, it doesn't have anything. And let's say you want to create another folder in this folder. So in order to do that, you'll have to first switch to this folder. I mean, you could use the makedir method with the full path again, but let's say you want to do it in a more convenient way. So just get in os.chdr here, and change your location to this folder. So I'll just copy this, right? Control C, and then I'll get in double quotes, and within double quotes I'll paste this, and wait a second, there's an extra double quotation there, and when I press the enter key, my directory has now been changed to this folder, new folder. I'm no longer, my root directory is no longer the Python 33 folder. So if I would execute the makedir command with the simply the name of the folder that I want to create in the new folder, let's say I want to call that test. When I press the enter key now, I'll go to my desktop, and then I'll go inside the new folder, and I'll see that I have this folder here called test, right? And let's say if you want to remove this folder now, you can make a call to the rmdir method, and to do that you have to type in os.rmdir, and within parentheses you simply type in the name of the folder that you wish to delete. So let's say you want to remove the test folder, simply type in test. When I press the enter key and go back to my new folder, I see that it's empty again. The test folder has been deleted. And let's say you want to find out, if you're lost and if you want to find out what your current working directory is, you can do that by making a call to os.getCwd method, and you have to follow that up with a pair of empty parentheses. When I press the enter key, I see that this is my location, right? So that's it for now. In the next tutorial, we are going to talk about something interesting again, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 45th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about exception handling in Python, and we're going to check out a very simple program, and through that we'll understand what exception handling is and why we need to use it, right? So what I've done is I have created a program that asks the user to enter two numbers, right? Numerator and denominator, and then what I've tried to do is I've tried to divide the numerator and the denominator by converting them first into their integer forms, because we've received the input using the input function, and when you use the input function to take input from the user, you get it in string format, right? So in order to convert it into numeric format and perform the division, I've used the integer function here, and then I've stored the result of the division in a variable called res, short form for result, and then finally I've used the print function to display the result, right? So it's a very simple program. I didn't write it fresh for you guys because I thought that since it's so simple, let's just save some time. So I'll execute this file, and I'll enter 15 for numerator, and I'll enter 5 for denominator, and I get the result as 3, right? So that's perfectly fine. The program's working okay. But what if I execute this program with 15 as the value for numerator and 0 as the value for denominator. In this case, we get this traceback error, which honestly isn't pretty looking. It says that zero division error is what it has encountered, and you cannot divide by 0. Obviously, that's something that we know. And even if you would try to do this in a simple calculator, you would get into something like, I don't know what the heck you're trying to do. So if you know that in your program you can have such situations in which the interpreter doesn't know what you're trying to do, and it doesn't know how to deal with the situation, then you can place your error prone code into what is known as a try block. So in this case, if I have to do that, then what I'll do is, just before performing the division operation, I'll type in the keyword try and a colon and get this statement, the division statement in the try block. And if suppose an error is encountered in this try block, then we can have a corresponding except block, and in that we can use the print function to display a message, not the traceback error, but something that is at least a little pleasant to the eye, right? So I can display something like I have to put it in the double quotes, you can't divide by 0 baby, okay, and an exclamation symbol, and I'll get the closing double quote. And if an error is not encountered, then we can have an else block and have this print statement, the one that was going to display the result for us, in the else block, right? And I'll put in a result here and a comma, and I'll also get in a colon here, right? So yeah, I guess we're good to go now. I'll save the file, and when I execute the program now, if I type in 15 for the numerator and 0 for the denominator, this time I don't get this traceback, but I get the message you can't divide by 0, right? So if you are having Python code running in the back end of your website, then you would obviously not want your users to freak out by seeing something like this, right? Because this is intimidating. And in all other cases, if I would execute this file with 25 as the value for the numerator and 5 as the value for denominator, it would do just the same as it did earlier. So it's displaying the result 25 by 5, which is 5 to me, right? So that's it about exception handling. And there are a lot of different kinds of uses that you can have for this concept, and I just wanted to introduce you guys to the topic of exception handling. And if you want to learn more, then obviously Google is the king. You can search for applications of exception handling in any language, and you can pick up concepts from there, right? So I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 46th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to begin our discussion on classes and objects. And those of you who have programmed with the object-oriented programming languages before, languages like C++ or Java or PHP, must be knowing what classes are and what objects are, right? But those of you who haven't programmed with such languages before, or have programmed but haven't ever used classes, you guys don't have to worry, because we're going to check out a very simple application of classes in in this course. And I assure you that by the end of the next couple of tutorials, you will be absolutely comfortable with the concept of classes, right? So what I have here for you guys is a program that I made, and I could have made this program live in the tutorial for you, but I thought that just check out the length of this. It's like really big, so if I would have typed and if I would have explained things to you, then it would have taken a lot of time. So just to save time, I have created this program already. And let me first define some terms for you. So a class in programming terms is a construct that has some data members, and it also has some functions that use those data members or variables to perform some operations, right? So let me give you a real life example of a class. So let's say you want to represent all students across all universities in the world with one class. So you have to first think of some common characteristics that all students across the globe have. So all students have names, all students have age, all students have university IDs, and then they have gender, and what else, they write exams, of course, so they get their scores. So these characteristics can be thought of as variables or data members of the class. And then you can have certain functions like, show info, and this function can simply display information about students. So you can display name, you can display age or gender, or the marks obtained. And then you can also have another function that asks the students to input their scores, and then it maybe performs some arithmetic operations on the values received, like adds the scores up or finds the average or something and displays that result. So you can have another function for that. So the point that I'm trying to make is that a class is a template that you can use, and you can create different objects for different students and use the same features for each student, and perform similar operations, right? So that's the purpose of using classes. So what I've got here for you is a program that has just one class, and the class itself has 3 functions, and one of which is a constructor function, and we're going to talk about that too in a while. So the name of the class is my class, and the first thing that you need to notice is that at the beginning of my program, on the very first line, I have the keyword class, and you have to put in this keyword whenever you're creating your class. So you type in class, give a space, and then type in a name for your class, and I've put in my class here. Then you have to put in a colon, just as we do when we define a function or when we work with decision statements or loops. We use a colon to get inside the block of something, right? So that's why I've used a colon here to get in the block of class. And the purpose of having this class is that it's supposed to be like a questionnaire, and we're going to ask users to tell us the color of their cars, and on the basis of whatever input they provide, we're going to show them the result of the survey, the survey as a whole. So we're going to ask let's say one user, Alex, what's the color of your car? And if Alex says that I have a black car, then we're going to update the black car count by 1, and we're going to eventually display the result to Alex. So Alex will be able to know how many black cars are there, of all the people who've been approached with the questionnaire, and how many white cars are there, how many gray cars are there, and how many green, blue, or red cars are there. So that's what we're going to try to do, and let's check out how we're going to do that. So initially we're assuming that we haven't approached anyone, so that's why I have defined a variable called sample, and I've given it the value 0, right? On the next line, I have another variable called w. It has the value 0 again, and w is supposed to be a short form for white. So we are assuming that the total number of white cars at the beginning, when we haven't asked anyone, is 0, and this actually isn't an assumption. It's just an obvious thing, because you haven't asked anyone, so you can't just have any value for number of white cars. And then we have another variable b, short form for black, which again has the value 0. G, which is a short form for gray, it also has the value 0. And then you finally have a variable called O, which is a short form for others, and it also has the value 0, right? Then I have a list variable called color_list, and it has 3 string values: black, white, and gray. So what we're going to do through these functions that you see following this variable is that we're going to ask the user for the color, and then we're going to see if the value that's been provided to us, if it lies in this list or not. So if it lies in the list, then it means that the color is either black, or it is white, or it is gray. If it is black, then we're going to update the variable b, we're going to increment it by 1. If it is white, then we're going to increment w by 1, and if it is gray, then we're going to increment g by 1, right? And if it doesn't lie in this list, then obviously we'll have to update the variable o, we'll have to increment it by 1, right? So on the next line, I have created a function, and this you guys must have made out because I have the def keyword here. But this function is different from all the other functions that we've seen in this course thus far. It starts with 2 underscore characters, and then it has the keyword in it, and then it is followed by 2 more underscore characters, and it's a special function. It's a constructor function for this class, and this function is called automatically when an object of the class is created, right? So you don't have to explicitly call this function. Whenever you create an object, the constructor function gets called. And as arguments, all functions in classes in Python take in the argument self. Self has to be one of the arguments. So if your function takes more than one argument, then self has to be the first one, and then you can have your other arguments, right? So whenever we're going to create an object, we're going to pass in the name of the person who's answered our questionnaire, as an argument. So that's why the constructor function takes self as the first argument, which is compulsory, and it takes name as the second argument. inside the body of the constructor function, we have you know stored the argument value that we've received for the argument for the parameter name in a variable that is local to this class, right? So we've defined another variable called name, and you could have any variable here, like you could have any name here like var or string or something, right? But the point that I'm making is that you need to have it local to this class. So the syntax that you have to use is you have to first put in the name of your class, follow that up with a dot, and then the name of your variable. So if you want to store it in the variable name, you have to put in myClass.name and then the equal to symbol, the assignment operator, and then the argument that you've received, which is name. On the next line, I have a print statement which asks the user for the color of his or her car, and then I have stored the input just received using the input function in another variable that is local to this class, supposed to be local to this class, and this variable is called color, and again the syntax remains the same, myClass.color equals input. On the next line, I have updated the sample variable by 1, and the reason why I've done this is that whenever the constructor function is called, it means that you created a new object, and that means that you have approached someone, so your sample size has to be incremented, right? So the sample size is the number of people you've approached with your survey or with a questionnaire or whatever. So every time the constructor function is called, the sample variable is updated, right? On the next line, I have defined another function, and this one's called check_color, and again it takes self as one of the arguments, and as I said earlier, we're going to check whether the color received lies in this list or not. So that's what we're doing using this if statement here. If myClass.color lies in, we're using the in membership operator, myClass.color_list. So we're checking if the value lies in this list or not. If it does, then we're going to check whether the value is black, or if it is white, or if it is gray. So to check if it is black or not, we'll have to use the index position 0 with the list variable, because black is the first element in the list, white is the second element, so white will have the index 1, and gray is the third element, so the gray will have the index 2, right? So to check if it is black, we'll type in if myClass.color equals myClass.color_list with the index 0. If that is the case, then we are going to increment the number of black cars, the count of that, by 1, and if that is not the case, then we'll have to check whether the color is white or not. If that is the case, then we're going to update the variable w. If that is not the case, then we'll obviously update gray, right? Because if it's not black, if it's not white, but if it is present in the list, then it means it has to be gray. And if the color was not found in the list, so if this if statement evaluated to false, then we have a corresponding else block for this if statement, and in this else block we have updated the variable o, right? And we've done this because if it's not black, if it's not white, if it's not gray, then it has to be some other color. That's why we updated others, right? On the next line, I have defined another function, and this one's called display_result. It again takes self as one of the arguments, and then in the function we have first displayed a message hello using the print statement, and then the name of the person who's answered our question. So that value is available to us in the variable name that's local to the class, so myClass.name. And then on the next line, I have another print statement that displays the total number of black cars, and that value is available in the variable b local to the class, so that's why myClass.b, and then the number of white cars, number of gray cars, and finally the total number of other cars. And then we've also displayed the sample size, right? And this value is available in myClass.sample. On the next line, we have moved out of the body of the class and we have created our object, right? So the name that I've given to my object is myObj, short form for my object. I've used the assignment operator, follow that up with the name of the class, which is my class, and since I have to pass in the name of the person who's answered the question as an argument, because that is what the constructor function takes, I've passed in John within double quotes as an argument, right? So John will eventually get stored in the variable myClass.name, right? And then I obviously have to, the constructor function gets called automatically, so I don't have to explicitly call this, but I have to call in the other two functions. The other two functions are checkColor and displayResult. So I have done that by typing in the name of my object, myObj, then a dot, and then the name of the function, check_color. This is for the first function, and similarly display_result for the second function. So let me execute this program and show you guys the output. I'll press F5 to execute it, and when I do it, I get this message, what's the color of your car? So let me type in black here, and when I press the enter key, I see the message, hello John, total number of black cars 1, and total number of white cars 0, total number of gray cars 0, and sample size is 1, right? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another object in the file. So let me get back to the file, and let me call this object myobj2, and again I'll type in the name of my class, my class, and as an argument I'll pass in Roger, right? And then I'll make calls to the two functions, myobj2 dot check underscore color, and a set of empty parentheses, and then myobj2 dot display underscore result, and a set of empty parentheses, and that's it. I'll save the file, and I'll execute it again. So again, now we're going to see the result for John as well as for Roger. So for John I'll type in green as the input, and for Roger I'll type in white as the input. So now we see that when we type in green and press the enter key, we see the message hello John, and that's because the first object was created, and the constructor function was called, and then we had the calls to the other two functions for the first object. So we see that the number of other cars is 1 because we supplied green as the input. So green is not black, not white, not gray, so that's why you would see others incremented and the sample size was 1. And then for Roger we supplied white as the input, so now white cars have also been incremented by 1, and others obviously stays 1, and the sample size has been incremented to 2, right? So this is a lot of content. This tutorial has been running on for ages, it seems to me, and I didn't want to make it so long. I just hope that I didn't bore you guys, and those of you who have stuck with me till now, I really wish I could show you all this in a simpler way or in a shorter way, but I had to explain everything to you, and we are probably going to check out 1 or 2 more examples of classes. So we're not going to discuss classes in so much depth in the coming tutorials, but this was important, right? I hope you guys get the point, and thank you so much for watching this tutorial. And you can obviously go back and look at the code and ask me any questions if you have. Just put in your messages, comments, whatever, and I'm going to try to reply to as many of them as possible. And I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care, guys. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 47th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to continue our discussion on classes and objects, and I'm going to just show you some tweaks with the last program that we made in the last tutorial. And this is what the program looks like, and if you haven't seen the last tutorial, then I would suggest you guys to watch it, because you won't be able to understand much of what we're going to do in this tutorial if you haven't checked out the last tutorial, right? So the first thing that we're going to see is how we can remove this name parameter from the argument list for our constructor function. So it's not necessary that whenever you create a constructor function you have to receive an argument through the object creation statement. That's not necessary. So I'll get rid of this and what I'll do is, since I'm still interested in knowing the name of my user, I'm going to use a print statement here inside the constructor function, and I'm going to ask the user to tell me his or her name. So I'll have a message like what's your name, and then I'm going to use the input function to store the input in the variable myClass.name, right? And this is very simple, and what I'll have to do is I'll obviously have to make changes to my object creation statement, because now we're no longer going to pass values to the constructor function, right? So I'll get rid of all these object statements. And another thing that we're going to check out is that if suppose you want to create 5 objects in your script file, then it's not important for you to have the object creation statements written 5 times. You could have a loop, and if you know that you're going to create the statements, create the objects, sorry, in the same way, in more or less the same way, then you can have a loop, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a variable called var. I'll give it the value 0, and this is supposed to be the control variable that I'm going to use with my while loop, right? On the next line, I'm going to define an empty list. I'll call this my list, and I'll use empty square brackets to create this list. And then on the next line, I'll type in the keyword while, and I'll loop for var less than 4, right? So var initially has the value 0, and if var runs to less than 4, then it means that it's going to run 4 times. The loop is going to have 4 iterations, right? And the iterations are going to be for var equals 0, var equals 1, var equals 2, and var equals 3. And it cannot be 4. As soon as it will get 4, the loop will terminate, right? And then I'll put in a colon here. I'll get inside the body of the while loop, and what I'll do is I'll type in my list, and I'll use the append function of list, and as an argument to this, I'll pass in the class name and with a set of parentheses. So what I'm doing is, at each position in the list, if suppose the loop of course is going to run 4 times, so the list is currently empty, it doesn't have any element in it, but if I'm using the append function in each iteration, then for 4 iterations we are going to append 4 different values to the list. And an object is nothing but some space in the memory for the class, right? So it can also be as a element in a list. It doesn't necessarily have to be an exclusive variable in its own. It can also be a part of a list variable. At each index position you could have an object variable for a class. So I have used the append function here, and as an argument I have passed in the name of the class with the empty parentheses, and of course I'm not passing anything within these parentheses because the constructor function no longer needs to take in an argument now, right? And this is it. And then obviously I'll have to make calls to the functions check color and display result, and since the first object is going to be available at the index position 0 of the variable my list, I'll have to type in my list, and then within square brackets I'll have to type in 0, or sorry, I'll have to type in var, because var contains the value. So in the second iteration, var is going to have the value 1, and the object at the index position 1 is going to be used, right? So var is going to take care of this for me. I'll put in a dot, and this is what we do to call a function when we know where the object is. I'll type in check underscore color, the name of the function, the first function, and then I'll type in my list, and within square brackets again I'll type in var, and then I'll put in a dot, and then display underscore result, and another set of empty parentheses. And the last thing that I have to do in this program is I'll have to update the control variable by typing in var equals var plus 1, right? I'll save this file, and when I execute the program, I see the message what's your name, right? So the constructor function has been called, so that means that the first iteration of the while loop is currently going on, right? So I'll type in Roger here, and what's the color of your car? Well, let's say Roger has a black car, right? So hello Roger, total number of black cars is 1, sample size is 1. Then again, the second iteration's working now, so we are again seeing the message what's your name. So the constructor function has been called the second time now. So let's say the name of the second guy is Rafa, and let's say Rafa has a green car. So hello Rafa, total number of black cars 1, other cars 1, sample size is 2. Let's say the next guy is Andy, right? So the color of Andy's car, let's say, is red, and hello Andy, total number of black cars is 1, and other cars, the count is 2, and the sample size is 3. And let's say finally we have Novak as the guy who we approached, and let's say Novak has a white car. So hello Novak, total number of black cars is 1, total number of white cars is 0. And the reason why this is 0 is that I've actually made an error in my program, and I'll tell you what that error is. In my list I have the word wide with the all small case letters, and as an input I have supplied wide with the W as a capital letter. And the reason why we didn't get this problem with the black for Roger is because when I provided the value black, I use small b as my first character of the input, whereas in the case of white I use W. So you can make changes to your program to sort of accommodate for this problem. You could have more values in your list, and you could have these small case values and uppercase values, or you could change the input received to lower case letters, all lower case letters, and then make the comparison. And you can do all those things because we've already checked out string functions, and I'm sure that you guys are familiar with those techniques now. So anyway, my objective in this tutorial was not to show you guys the output, but I just wanted to tell you some techniques that you can use to use, like for instance using loops to create class objects, and having class objects as individual elements of a list, and also that the constructor function doesn't necessarily have to take in an argument, right? You can just have self as an argument and it'll work. And the next thing that we're going to check out in this tutorial is, I mean, at first I thought that I'd have another tutorial on classes and I'll discuss the next bit that I want to show you guys in the next tutorial, but then I thought that let's just wrap up our discussion on classes in this tutorial itself, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm again going to change my constructor function, and I'll get rid of this print statement, and I'll change it to the way it was initially, right? So I've passed in name as a second argument, so I'll have to get rid of the print statement as I said. And so what this means now is that the constructor function is again going to take name as an argument. So with this code, suppose we want to use the loop, and we also want to pass in the constructor function an argument, the name as an argument. And you would want to do something like this when you want to create multiple objects using a loop, but you do not want to supply the name every time, right? So to take care of that, what I'm going to do is, after creating this variable called var here, I'm going to create a variable called names, right? And it's going to be a list variable, and I'll put in 4 names in this list variable, right? So Roger is one, and then let's say we want Rafa as the second one, and then let's say we want Andy as the third guy, and let's say we want to have Novak as the fourth guy, right? And then since I want these values to be passed to the constructor function in each iteration, what I'll have to do here is that I'll have to type in the name of the list variable that contains these values, and then within square brackets I'll again type in var, right? So the way this is going to work is, an object is going to be created at the 0th position of the list variable mylist in the first iteration, and it's going to pass in the value Roger, which is again at the 0th position of the list variable names, to the constructor function of the class myClass, right? So this is a little complicated, and I would suggest you guys to pause the video here and just take a minute to understand this. If you've understood it, then that's just brilliant. I'll save this file now, and when I execute it, I just see that I get the message, what's the color of your car? I don't see what's your name. So now I don't have to type in names, I can just type in colors, and I'm gonna make sure that I type in all small case letters this time. So black, and let's say white, and let's say white again, and let's say blue, right? So let me scroll up to show you guys the output. So for the first iteration, we see the message, hello Roger, total number of black cars is 1, sample size is 1. Second case, hello Rafa, total number of black cars is 1 and white cars is 1 because we supplied white as the input, sample size is 2. Total number of black cars is 1, white cars is 2 for Andy. And then finally for Novak, we supplied blue as the input, so others has to be updated, and the sample size has been changed to 4, right? So this is it. This is all I had to discuss with you guys about classes and objects, and I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial and the last one too. And you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you have any doubts, you can email me, you can put in comments, you can contact me on Facebook, you can do whatever suits you best. And I'll see you guys in the next video, in which again we'll discuss something interesting about Python. And thank you so much for watching this one. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 48th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we're going to check out how we can install the MySQL connector for Python, and then how we can execute some SQL code using Python and MySQL, right? So the first thing that I'm going to ask you guys to do is, you'll have to open your web browser and make a Google search for MySQL connector for Python, right? And you'll have to follow the first link that appears on the screen, and that's to download the connector. And I'm assuming that you already haven't downloaded the connector and it's not installed in your systems. If it is, then you can skip the first couple of minutes of this tutorial, and you can get on to the rest of the tutorial in which I've discussed how we can execute some SQL code. So Anyway, if you don't have the setup installed, then on this page you'll have to select your operating system. So if you're a Microsoft Windows user, then you can let this be. Otherwise, if you're a Mac OS user, then you'll have to select Mac OS here, right? And then you'll also have to select the download link that corresponds to your version of Python. So if you're a Python 3.3 user, then you'll have to click on the download button here. And when you click on the download button, you'll be asked to sign in with your Oracle username and password, right? And you'll have to sign up on the Oracle Technology Network. And if you haven't done that, then you should, because that gives you the liberty to download any of Oracle's products. So MySQL now is an Oracle product, and so is Java, and so is Oracle the database. So if you want to download any of those tools, then you'll have to sign up on OTN, and I've already signed up, and that's why I wasn't redirected to that page, and I've signed in actually. So when I clicked on download, the setup file was automatically downloaded for me, right? And to execute it, I'll just have to click on it and give it permission to run on my system. And when I do that, it's not going to take much time to install the thing, because it's 110.5 KB size, as you can see here, and it's a Python script file, so Python script files generally run fast, right? So to test whether the setup file was installed successfully or not, what you'll have to do is you'll have to type in import and then mysql.connector, which is the name of the package, right? So when you do that and press the enter key, if you don't get any traceback error here, it means that the file has been installed properly, right? Now, in order to execute SQL code, you'll have to first establish a connection with some MySQL database, and to do that, we're going to create a connection object using the connect function of this module. So let's say I want to call my object CONN, right? Short form for connection or connect. And then I'll type in the assignment operator and then mysql.connector, the name of this module, and then I'll follow that up with a dot and then the name of the function that I have to use, which is connect. And this function takes 4 arguments. The first one is the username, and my username for my MySQL databases is root, so I'm going to type in that. And then the second argument is the password, right? So you type in password equals and then your password, and my MySQL password is my name itself, so that's Madhur. And then the next argument has to be the host name, right? So for that you have to type in localhost, right? So you type in localhost here, and the last argument is actually optional. So if you don't want to connect to any database, but just to MySQL, then you just execute this function this way. But if you want to connect to some existing database, then you type in as the last argument database equals, and let's say I want to connect to a database called test, and I'll show you the database. In fact, here's my MySQL workbench, and these are all the databases that I have. So I have a database Joomla and Sakila, Strepsils, and there's this database called test, right? And in this database I have 3 tables: employee, tutorial, and tutorial_info. And in this course I am not going to discuss all SQL that there is to learn, because I've already created another series of tutorials on SQL. So if you guys want to revise SQL, or if you don't know what SQL is, if you want to learn it, then you can check out my series of tutorials on SQL, and it's on YouTube, right? So I'm going to connect to the test database, and once I've supplied all the 4 arguments, I just have to press the enter key to create my connection object. And again, if you don't get any trace back here, then you're good to go, right? So the next thing that we'll have to do to execute SQL code is we'll have to create a cursor, right? And let's say I want to call my cursor myCursor, and a cursor is nothing but a messenger between Python and MySQL. So through the cursor you're going to instruct Python to get something from the MySQL database, and then eventually do some stuff with it, like view it, or store it in a text file, or whatever. So I want to call my cursor myCursor, and I'll use the assignment operator and then the name of the object that I've just created, which is con, follow that up with a dot, and then I'll use the cursor method, right, which is cursor, and then follow that up with a pair of empty parentheses. I'll press the enter key to create it, and now I can execute all the SQL that I want to execute. So let's say I want to check out all the tables that I have in my test database, right? So what I'll do is I'll type in myCursor, right, the name of the cursor object that I've just created, and then follow that up with a dot, and then the name of the method that I have to use, which is execute, and within parentheses and double quotes, I'll type in the SQL that I have to run to see the what do you call tables. So the command is show tables. I'll type in that, and then you press the enter key, and you won't see your tables just as yet. You'll have to do one more thing, and that is you'll have to use the fetch all method to see the results. So I'm going to use a print function to see the results, and what I'll have to do is I'll have to type in my cursor, name of the cursor object, and a dot, and then fetch all, right, and a set of empty parentheses. So that's a method that you will be able to use with your cursor object. When I press the enter key, I see that I've got 3 tables: employee underscore view underscore new, and then well, actually this is a view, it's not a table, but it's displaying me the views as well. So I've got 3 tables: employee tutorial and tutorial underscore info, and then I've got this one view in the database, right? And let's say you want to find out what version of MySQL you're running. So the command for that is you'll have to use show variables command with the version passes an argument through the like operator. So what you'll do is you'll type in my cursor, because it's a fresh command that we're executing, so we'll have to use the execute function again. So my cursor dot execute, and then within parentheses you type in this show variables and like, and then between 2 percentage symbols you type in version, right? And after doing that, you press the enter key, and there is some error with the command that we've just executed. What's the error? Oh, okay, I got it. So what you have to do is you have to enclose this bit within single quotes, right? So the percent version part, you have to enclose that within single quotes, and now when I do that and press the enter key, I won't get an error. So with this we actually have got to know something else. So what happens is you first see traceback errors that Python throws at you, and then you also see MySQL returning some errors to you. So the MySQL error code is 1064, and it tells you that you have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your MySQL server version for the right syntax to use near. So it tells you that this is the place where you have an error. And the next thing that you have to do is, again, as I said, you have to make a call to the fetch all method. So type in print, and within parentheses you type in my cursor dot fetch all, and a set of empty parentheses. When I do that, I see that the version of MySQL that I have installed is 5.5.32, right? So that's it for now. I'm going to see you guys in the next tutorial, in which we'll continue our discussion on using SQL in Python. And I hope you guys had fun watching this tutorial, and you may subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and you can check out my series of tutorials on SQL if you want to learn more SQL. And I'm going to see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 49th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to see how we can create a MySQL database using Python, and how we can switch to that database, and also how we can create a table in that database, right? So we're going to start off where we left in the last tutorial. In the last tutorial we understood how we can import the MySQL.connector module, how we can create a connection object by supplying the required arguments, and then how we can create a cursor object, and how we can execute simple SQL statements. So we're going to start off from where we left, and as you can see, I have a fresh shell session here, and I have imported the MySQL connector module. I've also created a connection object. I've given it the name CONN, and I've also created a cursor object using the cursor method, right? So one thing that I've done differently is that while establishing a connection with the MySQL server, I haven't specified the database name as an argument to the connect method. And the reason why I haven't specified the name of the database here is because we'll be creating a new database and we'll be switching to that database. So I don't want a connection to be established with a particular database in MySQL. We'll be creating one and then we'll be switching to it, right? So the first thing that I'll do here is I'll execute the create database SQL statement, and I'll show you guys my MySQL workbench. As you can see, I've got 5 databases at the moment: Joomla, Sakila, Strepsils, Test, and World, right? So let's say I want to create a database called Python. So the command for that is going to be my cursor dot execute, and whenever you have to execute any SQL code, you have to use the execute function, and in double quotes I'll type in create database and then the name of the database which you want to create. So in this case I want to create a database called Python, so I'll type in that, and when I press the enter key, I'll go back to my MySQL workbench and I'll refresh the object browser, and you can see that there is a database here now that's called Python, right? And in MySQL we've automatically switched to this database because no other database was selected initially, right? But in Python you'll have to do that, and the command to do that is use and the name of your database. So I want to use the Python database for all the operations that I'm going to perform next. So I'll type in use Python, and I'll press the enter key, and now we have switched to the Python database. So if you're going to create a table now, then that table will be created in the Python database, right? And the command to create the table, the SQL statement of course is going to be create table, and obviously since we are going to execute an SQL query, we'll have to use the execute method here, and I'll get in triple quotes instead of a single double quotation mark, because I know that my create table statement is going to span over multiple lines. So I'll type in create table,